Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Greenwood City Council meeting, approximately 7:09 p.m. This August 2nd. Ms. Terry, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Ralph Baker.
Here.
Todd Powell.
Here.
A.C. Brown.
Here.
Lance Terry.
Here.
Tim Terry is present via Zoom, and Daniel McDaniel is present via Zoom, and Mike Hamby is also on there. So we have a quorum.
Thank you. If you would please rise, at this time we will ask Brother Ronnie Deal from Greenwood First Baptist Church to lead us in a prayer, and followed by our pledge of allegiance by Mr. Richard McKinney.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for your many blessings. Thank you for how good you are to us. Lord, we pray for your guidance and direction on this meeting. We thank you for this town, this community. Lord, for the leaders, the people that serve in this community. We ask your blessings on them. And Lord, for this meeting, we do ask for guidance, direction, and wisdom as decisions are made, as business is held. And so, Lord, we pray that all that is done and said here will be to honor you. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please join me in our pledge to the flag of the United States of America. Present arms. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mark.
Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, I would ask the council, if you have not had a chance to take a look at the minutes from our July 12th regular council meeting and our July the 20th special call meeting, and looking for approval of those minutes.
I'll make that motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Mr. Baker.
Yes.
Mr. Powell.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Lance Terry.
Yes.
Tim Terry.
Tim, can you hear us?
I think he may be on mute. What about Mr. McDaniel?
Anybody?
Yeah.
All right. Tim, you may be on mute. Can you unmute yourself?
He's going to make me say it. Put down the Cheetos.
Turn it around. What's up?
He ate Cheetos the last time we were on Zoom.
Actually, he's not on here anymore. Yeah, he's not on here. I guess he had trouble. So Tim is not present just yet on here. But we have
We still have one.
it's a majority, so yes, it
Okay.
passes.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the recognitions and acknowledgements, and we have a few of those tonight. But I want to recognize some distinguished guests. All of our guests are distinguished. Thank you for being here. But Mayor Gaddis from Barling is here. Welcome, sir. Steve Core is the city administrator from Barling, and Robert Barker, board member over in Barling too. So we thank you, gentlemen, for coming, and they're on the agenda for a little bit later for discussion. So appreciate you coming very much. Also with us this evening is a reporter, a journalist from the Wall Street Journal. This is Elizabeth Findell over in this corner. That's right, Wall Street Journal. That doesn't happen in Barling very often, does it?
Not very often.
And Trent is also here. Trent Bozeman, and somewhere there he is. He asked me if he could how did you put it? Gracefully walk around the crowd, and I said, you may, as long as it's graceful, and when you're not, I'll call you out. So he's going to be taking pictures tonight. So we're in town doing a story on Michael Lejeune and COVID effect on our community. So I had the honor and privilege to meet with Katie and the folks from Wall Street Journal at the pavilion today. Let me just say, Ms. Katie Lejeune is as strong as a woman that I know. She stood and visited and poured her heart out, and just not long after Michael went home. So thank you for that opportunity to be there and put my 2 cents worth in today. So, and we have a couple of other recognitions that just pains me to do this for Mr. McKinney. I'm joking. Richard McKinney's a good friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. Richard and the VFW here in Greenwood recently were recognized with a few things, and I'm just going to get to it. I'll do it from here, and then I'll have Richard come up and reluctantly take his picture with me, I'm sure. So I've got two proclamations. On behalf of the people of Greenwood, the city of Greenwood, by me, honored to publicly recognize the Harris Hanna VFW Post 6527. Whereas the city of Greenwood is proud to support the VFW Post in our community, and whereas the purpose of the VFW Post is to speed rehabilitation of the nation's disabled and needy veterans, assist veterans, widows, and orphans and dependents of needy or disabled veterans, and to promote Americanism by means of education and patriotism and by constructive service to local communities. And whereas the Harris Hanna VFW Post 6527 began back in 1947 and currently has close to 200 members. And whereas the Harris Hanna VFW Post 6527 has received the 2021 National Outstanding Community Service Award, All-State Post 2021, and has received appreciation for its support of the State Commanders Project. And whereas the Greenwood community stands to honor the Harris Hanna VFW Post 6527 and its members for their sacrifices in defending our freedom and for continued service in veteran and community programs. Now therefore, I, Doug Kinslow, Mayor of Greenwood, Arkansas, do hereby deem it an honor and pleasure to proclaim August the 2nd, 2021 as Harris Hanna VFW Post 6527 Day. So let's. More personal note, a proclamation to publicly recognize Mr. Richard McKinney. Whereas the city of Greenwood, Arkansas takes any opportunity to commend its citizens for their outstanding contributions to the quality of life in this community, and whereas Richard McKinney has received the 2021 Post Commander of the Year Award given by the Veterans of the Ford War Department of Arkansas, and whereas Mr. McKinney was recognized as the Old Fort Days Rodeo honoree for 2021 for his military service and was presented a commemorative belt buckle, and whereas Mr. McKinney has served his nation and community as a United States Air Force veteran, retired AFOSI Special Agent, retired EMT firefighter, VFW Post Commander, and Focus on Greenwood President. And whereas the Greenwood community stands to honor Richard McKinney for his sacrifices in defending our freedom and for his continued leadership in veteran and community programs. Now therefore, I, Doug Kinslow, Mayor of Greenwood, do hereby deem it an honor and a pleasure to proclaim August 2nd, 2021 as Richard McKinney Day. So. Richard, now the good part.
Witness protection programs. You got to blur this.
So I'm going to hand you both of those. And this is the key to the city, and you know my little speech. I'll try to make it less, no. This key does not open my office or City Hall, as you well know. Yeah, you got a key for those. But truly, and I mean this, truly, this opens the hearts of what we like to believe around 10,000 people, depending on the census, Bob. It opens the hearts of those folks because of what you do and what you continue to do. Richard, you can look out this window almost not any day of the week, but certainly a couple of times a month, and he's over mowing the veteran or the Miners Memorial in the Historical Society area over there. I hear they pay him a lot of money, but he does it as if it's a volunteer. He does it voluntarily, and he does so many things under the radar, and he just continues to be what I like to say a McKinney in Greenwood, Arkansas. So he has a legacy of that, he has a heritage of that, and he continues to do that. So there you are, sir.
Thank you.
One for you and one for the Post.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we pretend to
I
like
can
each
say
other?
something, talking about some Greenwood support of our VFW Post. AEP Commission is taking care of our big fundraiser this year, and they've already signed on to do it next year, so we'll be having a lot of folks coming into town and a lot of good stuff going for veterans. Thank you very much for the city.
No, same thing, sorry.
Nice. Brother Ronnie, miracles do happen. All right. I believe we can move on to, I'm sorry, we have also a distinguished guest. He doesn't like to be referred to as distinguished, but he is all that in a bag of chips. This is Dr. Lee Johnson here And I'm going to give you an opportunity whenever you would like, sir. You can do it right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to come and, there's a lot going on again politically and with COVID again, and I'm glad to see my friends from Arling here. I wanted to come and just have an opportunity to visit with y'all, answer any questions you had, give you any insight to the special session. I don't know if you had questions, but I thought I would open it up to comments and questions. If you don't, I'll just give you, my take on what's going on. Anything, from the medical side to the political side, anything y'all want to discuss. That's required.
Give us your take on the medical side, Doctor.
So, I mean, I will say that this is the worst it's been, from the standpoint of this pandemic. I've worked in the CR for 22 years. I've worked in the CR all through the pandemic, and it's never looked like this. I mean, we're full, the hospital's full, the ER's full. Ambulances are showing up, and there's wall time, which means they're waiting for sometimes a considerable amount of time waiting for a bed to open up, so we can put patients in it. And a lot of that's because the hospital's full. What happens in the process there, people come in, they need to be admitted. There's no rooms upstairs, so they back up in the ER, so we're holding 20, 25 patients in the ER. It's a 40-bed ER. People are still coming in off the streets. And we've seen that before. That's happened before, but it's never happened this consistently for this long. And it's never happened in all of the bigger ERs across the state at the same time. And that's what's kind of making this unprecedented from a hospital capacity standpoint. So, the governor's declaration of emergency, we're going to meet tomorrow as a legislative body. We passed a bill this last session that requires us to meet within 8 days of any declared emergency. And so we're going to meet in this time frame. Our job and task is to determine whether we think there really is an emergency. And there is. I'm just telling you, if there's ever been a healthcare emergency in the state of Arkansas, we're in it, and so I think that part of this meeting tomorrow will be relatively non-controversial. I don't think there's a lot of appetite for ending that state of emergency. I think what the governor's trying to do by declaring the emergency is create some nimbleness within his executive orders to maybe address some of the staffing issues if he can. If there's any way for us to get help or assistance federally, we want to be prepared to do that. What we don't know is how's it going to look in 2, 3, 4 weeks. Like, I can tell you right now, it's bad. It's not overwhelming. We're okay. We're like this. We've got our head right here. We're swimming. We're taking care of people when they come in. Are there some delays in care? Yeah, it's we like to try to see people within 30 minutes ahead of the door. That's hard when there's no rooms to see people. But people are getting the care they need. You're going to get the care you need to go to the hospital. But if the numbers keep climbing, there does come a point where this becomes, unprecedentedly tough, and we get into these uncharted waters, and it's going to be, it's hard to know when that wave's going to crest. And on the current trajectory, things could look, worse in the next few weeks and feel worse, and they kind of feel kind of tough right now.
Dr. Johnson, at one time you were talking about the possibility of opening up the hospital in Van Buren and things.
So the capacity issue is not just geography, it's staffing.
Yeah.
And so, we've got lots of space at Van Buren, but we don't have lots of staff. We only have enough nurses to hold and manage about 6 to 12 patients right now at Van Buren. So we got 60 beds, but we don't have enough nurses. And that's sort of the problem that every hospital's facing around, not just around the state, but Louisiana, Oklahoma, all of the surrounding areas. It's a nationwide issue trying to come up with the nursing staff. And you said, well, how do we get so short on nurses? Some of it is we have a lot of sick people, and the pipeline is not fast enough to keep up. Some of it is it's been a hard year, and people are tired of working in this environment, and you got folks that are finding opportunities to work outside the hospital, and it's hard not to get that, right? People are willing to take $5, $10 less an hour to go work in a clinic or home health or some kind of environment where they're not standing there, taking care of the sick folks like they have. And So yeah, I don't know how you fix that nurse shortage problem, but if there is some sort of way to leverage some kind of federal support or local support, or broaden how we can license people quicker, we ought to be prepared to do that, and I think that's what the state of emergency is about right now.
Another question, if the FDA approves the vaccine, will Baptist Hospital mandate vaccines?
Well, yeah, I don't know, I speak for Baptist Hospital, but I don't, there's no discussions of mandating the vaccine. People are upset about that, right? I mean, people that work, I've heard from people, because I'm a political representative, right? I mean, but if you know people, there are people at Mercy who are upset about that mandate, and I mean, I get that, right? I mean, it's hard for me, from a healthcare perspective, I 100% support the vaccine. I think it's the best tool we have for fighting this pandemic. I think it's the right thing to do to get vaccinated. I feel very comfortable with the vaccine. I was one of the first people to take it. I think it's very safe. But I also understand why some people might not want to take the vaccine, and it's hard for me to not respect that right to refuse that, but I would be surprised if Baptists follow that lead. I haven't
I
heard any
just feel like the
discussion.
FDA approval would be one more step.
If we can get the EUA, the emergency authorization, use authorization, if that could go away, I do think it becomes a lot more of the people that are concerned. Maybe there's definitely a subset of people who are pointing to that and saying, hey, this is still experimental. FDA saying it's experimental. If that goes away, then that group of people maybe feels more comfortable, right? And I don't have a good sense of when that's going to happen. The FDA is being cautious, and I'm not sure when they'll do that.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Mine's quick. Booster anytime soon?
Yeah, I don't know, right? I got my vaccine eight months ago. If they said I could go get a booster right now, I'd go get one right away.
I'll be in front of you.
Yeah, there are, but there's just not enough studies and data out there to know when, if you need one, right? Last time I checked my antibodies, I still had antibodies from the vaccine. So, this is sort of all, we're still learning about the virus. We're still learning about the vaccine and how long it lasts. I suspect at some point there's going to be a recommendation for a booster, but I don't know when that's going to come. And I'll be ready for it, just like you or other people when it comes.
I saw a bank where Israel has approved the booster.
Yeah, I think you're going to see that in different parts of the world at different times. But I'd be surprised if there's not a booster at some point.
I'm ready.
Yeah. What were you saying?
I was just saying, you said you had the antibodies and stuff, there's been a lot of report on Arkansas and our percentage as far as people having been vaccinated.
Yeah.
I was wondering, is there any kind of numbers on the people that have, had the virus?
Right, it's still
that
protected.
had
Now, when you look at the number of people protected in Arkansas, there's definitely a percentage of people who get some protection from previous infection. So, certainly, you look in Sebastian County, we're right at about 25% last count vaccinated. There's definitely a subset of people within that group who probably are carrying antibodies from native infection. How much protection that offers versus the vaccine is still kind of up for debate, right? We think, what I would say is that from what I've read and what I understand, the vaccine generates a stronger antibody response than even a native infection, and that the amount of antibodies you produce in response to the vaccine lasts longer than the infection. And so, if you've had the infection, a couple of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks out, you probably ought to get back to the vaccine. Yep.
Lee, is there any effort or ideas on trying to get the antibody test out to 100% of the population? Where you get that accurate picture and say, okay, 75, 80%
Yeah.
got something, and it might be a sales pitch if you're going through the line and you pop up 0. It's like, okay, here, divert over here, get your vaccination.
It's a great idea, and the challenges with that is the quality and accuracy of the antibody tests are somewhat questionable, right? So there's 2 kinds of antibody tests. There's qualitative, which says yes, you have them, or no, you don't. And then there's quantitative, which actually puts a number to sort of how much you have. And so the quick and dirty test just says you got them and you don't have them, and you may not have enough to really offer you any kind of immunity. And so that makes that kind of challenging, because the better test would be a quantitative, but those tests aren't as readily available, aren't as accessible.
Why?
I mean, fair question, right? I guess I don't have a good answer other than maybe it's cost of the machinery and technology, and just we haven't invested in that. But I agree with you. I think it's a great idea. I think that's something that needs to be looked at as well and emphasized as well, as trying to sort out where is that mark, how do we measure it, and that's what we're looking at with this vaccine too, right? Just like with the infection, at what point do the antibody test I checked for, it was qualitative. I just know I had some. I don't know how many I have. Maybe there are only 2. Maybe I don't have any now. It's hard to know for sure how many of those you have.
I'd like to see more money go into that kind of testing where we can get an accurate picture of what's going on.
That's the kind of thing that's the kind of feedback I can hear and take to the health department. And when I'm down there this week, I'll ask some people that question.
Because I know a lot of people that think they had it,
Yeah.
but if they actually saw a number in front of them, they might run over and go get a vaccine real quick.
I think,
Get that
yeah,
number
and I need to think about that some, Richard, because I think that's a good question to ask some people at the health department. I'll ask that question this week when I'm down there.
You talked about, a booster maybe, becoming available, but isn't this going to be an ongoing thing? I mean, we're going to annually probably have to get a...
We don't know for sure, right? We think this is probably going to be something seasonal like the flu, but again, a year and a half ago, none of us knew what coronavirus, we didn't know what this was, and the vaccine's still new, and so we don't really know how long the immunity is going to last from the vaccine. And this is a virus that's changing, and so it could change again, and we could need something different, or maybe it changes into something that's, where we're just as affected. I think, when I'm trying to talk to people about this vaccine, one of the things that I'm trying to consistently say is, this is a different thing we're dealing with than what we're dealing with in January. This Delta variant, what I'm seeing personally in the emergency room, I'm personally seeing people in their 20s that I'm hospitalizing. I wasn't seeing that in January. I'm personally seeing people with no comorbidities come in sicker. And I talked to the chief clinical officer at Children's Hospital yesterday. And they have 24 kids at Children's Hospital right now under the age of 18 with COVID, hospitalized with COVID. I asked him, the worst part of the pandemic, the worst day, what was the most kids y'all had in the hospital with COVID? And he said less than 5. So the worst day in January, when we had the most hospitalizations as a state, Children's only had 4 or so admissions. And he said, and when you look at what they were sick with, he said, what we were seeing then, where kids come in with this sort of post-COVID inflammatory response thing that you may have heard about, that was something that was happening. We're not seeing that much now, but we were seeing sort of this, they had COVID, they were fine, they were over it, and then they got this autoimmune inflammatory response we didn't understand. Or he said they were kids that came in for some of the problem, and we were just screening them for COVID, and we found it. He said, these weren't kids that had COVID pneumonia. He said, these kids now that they're seeing, these 24 kids, they're sick with COVID. And some of them are on the vent, and some of them are on ECMO, which is where your body's completely bypassing your heart to support you. And that part of it is also kind of scary and different, because for me, that's a 5-fold increase in the number of kids we're seeing, and a lot of that's happened in the last few weeks. So it's a different entity, and I think people need to, if they were thinking before, hey, I'm not too worried about COVID, not many people are getting sick, now's the time to maybe reconsider that position some, because it is sort of a different deal.
So with that being said, school's starting in about 2 weeks. Are we going mask mandate or going back to work?
So that's the question, right? So that's the hot seat question for Wednesday. So we're going to meet Tuesday, and we're going to address this state of emergency, and I expect us to extend that. I don't think that'll be a big debate. Wednesday, the governor's asked us to come into special session to look at possibly amending Act 1002, which is the act that was passed that I voted for, to not allow local officials, state agencies, political subdivisions of the state to mandate masks. So in other words, schools can't make you wear a mask, governor can't make you wear a mask, mayor can't make you wear a mask, city council can't make you wear a mask. What the appetite is for changing that, I don't know. That's a harder question, right? The vaccine thing is pretty clear to me. The masking thing is harder to know the right choice. We shifted that responsibility with that bill. One of the misconceptions there is that we left no path for mask mandates. We left the path open. We just shifted it from the executive branch to the legislative branch. So at the very beginning of that bill, it very clearly says the General Assembly reserves the right to pass legislation regarding mask mandates. And this was sort of spawned on this, tug of war between the governor, the perception that the governor was overreaching among the public and pressure on us to kind of take some of that control back. I don't know yet how I feel or what the right idea is to try to walk that back if we need to. But I know there are people that are very passionate about not having us walk it back at all, because I'm getting 20 emails a minute, man. I mean, they're just hammering me. They're hammering me, I can pull out my phone and read them, it's just one after another, But it's hard to know. I mean, you get those emails from, like, I'm not getting 20 emails from people I know, right? I mean, I'm getting 20 emails from some kind of auto button. A lot of them have the same comments in them. But I'm getting emails too from people that want us to give a pathway back to the schools to mask people up. What the governor is suggesting, what the governor wants us to try to do is amend it to allow local school boards to make a decision about masking. And I have a little bit of a problem with that, just because it's one thing to say we're going to shift this responsibility from the governor, the Department of Health, to the legislative body, but to then go one more step and say we're now going to shift it to local school boards, and we're going to put that responsibility on them to sort of make healthcare decisions. That's not what they. My brother's on the school board. I promise you, he didn't run to do that. That's not what John Cecil set up to do. He's not. He needs guidance. He would look to guidance. So I don't know how we politically thread the needle and find some sort of compromise that allows people the opt-out that they passionately want, but also allows a pathway for masking for the people that want that. It's a bit of a conundrum, I think.
So what gives the legislature, they're making healthcare decisions for people.
Yep.
So if school boards, you don't feel like school boards should be making healthcare decisions for people, why should the state legislature, why do we have the Arkansas Department of Health if the legislature thinks they're smart?
This is a good question, Rod. And I don't know that we made the right decision there. And that's
personally, like that sends mixed messages as to the severity of the problem. I mean, if you got one school system says, all right, we're masking up because it's a serious problem, and 10 miles down the road, nobody's masking up. I mean, are you part of the problem or the solution?
Yeah. And I think one of the ideas that's floating around that I think has a little bit of traction is the idea of tying what you allow or don't allow to metrics. You can track active cases in a community, active cases in the school district, new active cases. There's a Arkansas Center for Health Institute tracks data by school district, and they give a green, yellow, red, purple designation based on number of new cases that happen in the school district over a rolling 14-day period. And so you could come up with some kind of compromise and say, all right, if you're in this purple, red zone, well, okay, y'all need to try to mask up. If you're in this yellow, green zone, y'all don't have to mask up. You don't have it in your community. And that makes more sense, right? At least then you're working on data driven by the health department and not just political opinions, right? Or what you find
How about
out
athletics at that point? I mean, you see what's going on with the NFL and the SEC. Same thing's going to happen in high school football. Teams are going to have to forfeit, because maybe that school doesn't mask.
Yeah, or they don't vaccine and quarantine. They quarantine. Yeah.
Makes it
Johnson, the mask actually, the mask that you see on those people.
Yeah.
And the thing.
Yeah. No, I feel bad. I felt bad. I didn't put mine on walking in. I got mine right here in my pocket. It's not doing much good.
Do they work?
Yeah. So I give you my feeling on what I think masks do and don't do. you know, and I've given this analogy a few times, maybe to some of y'all. You know, I think of masks as sort of chain link fences, right? And there are two ways that these respiratory illnesses spread. One is through these droplets. Okay, you hear about droplets. Droplets are 20 microns or greater. They are affected by gravity. They don't float. They're water droplets, humidity droplets that are coming out of your mouth when you speak or you breathe. And those are measurable. And you can, the whole 6 feet distance while we're spaced out here, why you can feel pretty comfortable taking off your mask at a spacing, is because if you're just breathing, talking, the respiratory droplets are going to fall to the ground by gravity, and all the virus particles that are floating on the droplets fall. That's droplet transmission. Originally, early in the pandemic, we thought that's the only way COVID was transmitted. Now we suspect that it's transmitted through aerosols. Aerosols are smaller particles that float in the air and just mill around the room, right? And that's where we talk about big open area, ventilated areas are better than close areas. We think now it's transmitted both ways. So when you talk about a mask, when you put on a mask, what the mask is preventing is this droplet transmission, right? It reduces the droplet transmission. The fabric of the mask is tight enough to keep these water droplets from, they're not going 6 feet out, they're going a foot out, and they're falling because you're, but the smaller droplets that are aerosol, they probably aren't really affected by the mask. They probably float around, unless you're wearing one of these N95 masks, right? It's how tight is the weave. So like if you've got a cotton mask, like a lot of people wear, you can think about that like a chain link fence. And you can think about the droplets we're talking about like gravel. So if I'm going to throw a handful of gravel at you, AC, and you don't have any fence in front of you, most of my gravel is going to hit you in the face. You put a big chain link fence up in front of you, I'm going to throw the gravel, and a lot of the gravel is going to splinter and not hit you because you got a chain link fence, right? If you put chicken wire, it's going to be even tighter, right? So these surgical masks are more like chicken wire. And then if you put like N95, well, now you're talking about like plate glass, right? So the droplets, and if you put chain link in front of you, and I put chain link in front of me, now I'm throwing rocks through my chain link fence into your chain link fence. So the masks are very effective at reducing water droplet transmission. That's why we saw such a dramatic drop in the flu and RSV, because these are viruses that are pretty well documented to be droplet transmission viruses. So the flu dropped off, man, because we were all masked up, and that's pretty much the only way it gets transmitted. Aerosols is like smoking. So it's like if it's aerosolized in water, it's like I'm throwing gravel and I'm smoking at the same time, right? And so I'm blowing smoke at you. It's probably not getting to you because it's just going, right? And so it doesn't matter if I'm blowing smoke through a chain link fence or a screened-in porch or a chicken wire. The smoke's going right through. But plate glass, smoke's going to get through, and that's what an N95 is like. So N95s protect you from both aerosolized and droplet, we think, right? But these masks mainly are protecting you from droplet, not aerosolized. So do they work? 100% they work. They work to some degree. Are they 100% effective? They're not, because probably it's got both these means of transmission. But the more we can do to sort of reduce the transmission, the better. And again, the CDC's now come out and said, in higher areas of transmission, we probably ought to be interacting with each other and mask when we can't distance. Because there is some thought now that vaccinated people can carry it asymptomatically. So our Wall Street Journal people are doing the right thing. So we're mask walking against it.
Well, I was wanting that when you talk about, in a school environment, and especially at an elementary level, you think, well, I've heard where, they say, well, kids are fidgeting with it and tugging on it and stuff like that. And so, as far as it being really effective, for their ages,
Yeah, I don't know. I think again, it's going to affect this droplet transmission. The more people, the more traction you get, the more people wear it, the more apt it is to cause some kind of positive effect and reduces the spread. I guess the question is, what does it hurt? And there are people that feel very passionate that it affects learning, have a mask on, that, there are people that feel very passionate that it affects their ability to breathe. And, again, it's very personal issues when it comes to masking, and it's harder to know for me the clear-cut answer when you look at the masking. The vaccine to me is a little clearer. And I don't know what we're going to do Wednesday. We may meet and do nothing. I don't know. I mean, it's a politically heavy lift to do anything to amend that bill.
Now, if and when do you think that the vaccine will be approved for 12 and under? For younger people?
I'm just spitballing, couple months. I think there's pressure to get it approved soon. And that ties into this too. I don't know, with the governor, I think if the governor could wave a wand, I think he would, mask up kids under 12 because they can't be vaccinated, and use that argument to say, so, there would be, the end would be, hey, okay, these kids can be vaccinated now. If you're worried about your kid, vaccinate them. Of course, again, what do you do with the CDC and their recommendations? And it's hard because we've given a lot of mixed signals, right? We change, and it's back to this whole, we learn different things, new stuff we're learning. You don't have to wear a mask, you're vaccinated. All of a sudden, you do have to wear a mask, even if you're vaccinated. It is a little bit of confusing messaging. So, or you just have to wear it in high spread areas, not other places.
Dovetailing Mr. Meeker's question, and I know you probably don't know the 12 and under, does that mean all the way down to, an age that you're looking at that possibly having an immunization for?
I don't know the bottom of that, right? I don't know if you're going to be 6 months old and get a vaccine, or 2 months old. I suspect it won't be that young. Right. I suspect what they'll do is do that school age gap, right? So it'll be something like 11 to 5. And start with that and see. It's hard, man. It's a hard time to be like a physician in the legislative body, guys. It really is a little bit. It's a little bit, right? It's a little bit. Yeah, it's a hard time.
Well, I feel fortunate that we have you.
Well, I appreciate that. I do.
Will they ever say that, it's only going to be N95 masks then?
It's hard because those have to be fitted, and they're not as easy to put on, and they really are, like, as a guy that's worn them a lot in this pandemic, you got to pinch the nose, and it would be hard to mandate that kind of compliance. Plus, even now, there's not enough, to really do that for everybody. They're not as accessible. What I'll say is, like, back to hospital capacity, like when we think about where we started with this whole thing, it was about flattening the curve, right? So we don't want to overwhelm the healthcare system. We want to do everything we can not to overwhelm the healthcare system. Well, we're right there, guys, in a way we've never been before. And so we ought to be trying to do, I'm at the point where, everything we can do, everything we can do, we ought to be trying to do to try to help. I just don't know what we politically can do.
On the physician side, what's the difference between the virus shot I got, the Pfizer, and just measles, mumps, rubella, just the MMR that you get?
Okay, so the Pfizer and the Moderna are these mRNA type viruses, which we hear about that are supposedly new technology. That's not a new technology. It's a pretty well studied technology that we started looking at with the first SARS outbreak back in like 03 or 09, whatever it was. This is just the first chance we've had to roll out a vaccine with this technology in it. So the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines, the way they work is they trick your cells into replicating the spike protein through this messenger RNA. It's not DNA. It doesn't have anything to do with your DNA. They get down to your cell and change your DNA. It doesn't last forever. It just enters your cells, and then there's machines in your cells that copy it and start cranking out the proteins, and then you make antibodies to the proteins as opposed to just giving you something. Like the other virus, so the Moderna and the Pfizer, they're those mRNA types. So they give you this thing that works its way into this mechanism where you crank it, where your body makes the spike proteins and you react to it. The other one, the Johnson & Johnson, we're giving you an adenovirus, which is a different kind of virus that doesn't cause any symptoms. And that virus infects your body. And that virus cranks out all these same spike proteins. So, the end result's the same. It's just, do you want your body to make the spike proteins your own way, or do you want to be infected with some virus that's going to replicate throughout your body and let the virus make the spike proteins? The end result's the same. It's just kind of pick your poison. And that's a more tried and true way than the other two. I get asked a lot, which one should I take? I think the evidence for Pfizer is in Moderna over Johnson & Johnson right now is pretty clear. The Johnson & Johnson's got about a 70% of efficacy, so maybe 30% chance of catching COVID if you take Johnson & Johnson. The Pfizer and the Moderna are closer to 90-95%. And so they're more cumbersome. You have to take 2 shots instead of 1, but if you're going to take one, they're probably better. If you've had the Johnson & Johnson, I've had a lot of people say, well, I took the Johnson. I'll tell them that, if I took the Johnson & Johnson, I think I'm going to get another one. Even though you have more of a chance of contracting COVID through a breakthrough infection, your chance of hospitalization is about the same with all 3. So we're seeing more breakthrough infections with Johnson & Johnson, but we're not seeing like a bunch of hospitalizations. I mean, all these breakthrough infections you hear about, it's just pretty unusual for one of those to wind up sick enough to be in the hospital. So even though there are definitely cases where the vaccine hasn't worked and people have caught COVID, that those people aren't getting sick the way the people that are.
At the end of the day, those shots and those vaccines are going to affect everybody different.
That's true. That's right, man. Just like the virus, right? I mean, that's the thing. Like, just like the virus, some people are going to get real sick, some people aren't going to get so sick, some people aren't going to have any symptoms at all. And probably to some degree, the reason people have different reactions to the shot is the same reason they have different reactions to the virus, right? I mean, the shot's like this mini infection with the spike proteins, your body's going to react to it in some way. Probably if you got really sick with the shot, you're one of the people that probably are going to get really sick if you got the virus. Probably. That's just me shooting from the hip, though. Wall Street Journal quote. Let's go back to Rocky.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, guys, y'all know. I mean, Aunt Danielle, wherever she is, she got me on speed dial, and I get calls. Y'all know I don't mind getting calls, texts. Anytime y'all got questions, y'all shoot me a text. Let me know. I don't know how this thing's gonna turn out this week.
You don't have any idea what the governor wants?
I know what the governor wants. The governor wants to run an amendment that would let school boards make the decision from 12 and under. But as you can imagine, the superintendents, not ours excluded, but superintendents in general, the superintendent association, like I met with Mike Mendes, he's the head of the superintendent association, they're not super keen on this idea of this whole, because just imagine it for me, it's just hard for me to get behind that because all of a sudden, I don't know if you watched some of these press conferences, some of these town hall meetings the governor's been doing, but can you imagine if we vote Wednesday to empower all the school boards in Arkansas to make this decision? And now they all got to meet sometime between Wednesday and the 16th of August. Can you imagine what these going to, I don't know how many school districts are in Arkansas, but, because people.
There's going to be mamas lined up everywhere.
On both sides. People are so passionate, about this, and look, I get it, I understand why people are passionate, but you're going to have people, it just feels, for me, that feels like maybe not such a great idea, right? If what you're saying is, look, hey guys, y'all should have never done this. You should have left it in the hands of the health department. This was I get why you did it. Like, I voted for it. I thought the pandemic's over. It's a 100-year pandemic. Y'all let grandkids work on it. But 2 wrongs don't necessarily make a right? If you're one of the people that believe Act 1002 is a bad law, right? And I'm not saying I do, but if you're one of those people, it doesn't make any sense to take a bad law and turn it into another bad law. If we're going to change it, let's change it in a way that makes some sense. That's an improvement over current law, right? I just don't know that I have the answer.
Any thought about returning that authority to the governor for under cases?
Yes, there is.
I think the health department.
There's a lot of ideas floating around. I don't know that. I need to get down there tomorrow. I think we need to put a pin in it for a little bit. right? Like if I could wave one, I would, and I'm advocating for, let's not make the decision Wednesday. Let's get down there. We do our best work as a legislative body when we're down there together. You know, because when we're all off in our communities, it's easy to launch bombs from social media. But when we get down there in a room together, the Arkansas government, I've said this many times in many forums, the Arkansas government still works great. You know, it's the right size to really be functional. And when we get down there together, we're going to have some constructive discussions. We're going to have some good debate back and forth, and we're going to generate some ideas. And you know, I'd like to see us give ourselves time to not rush this thing, right, and not feel pressure to make some kind of decision Wednesday. And I also think, you know, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe the cases in Arkansas are about to crest, and maybe in 10 days, you know, hospitalizations are going down, and everybody's looking better, and everybody breathes a sigh of relief. Or maybe it looks a lot worse, and we have more information to make a better decision about what we maybe should do. And so, you know, I'd kick that can down the road a little bit if it were me, and give it a little more time to, you know, more time to think about it, more time to look at the environment around us.
Do you think we can get there that the rest of them will feel the same way you do? And
Oh, I don't know.
Do you think that they'll want to talk about it? Or
Yeah,
they
they're going
just
to talk
vote
about it.
Wednesday?
There's going to be, I mean, people are going to want to talk about it.
Okay, good.
But I don't know the logistics like of a special session. Like, I don't know, like, do we convene and then we start a committee meeting? I've asked the leadership that, and I don't know that we know exactly what we're going to do yet, right? But I think there'll be several ideas come forward. There'll be time for those ideas to come to fruition. I bet we're there most of the week before we make some kind of decision. I think people.
That makes me feel better.
I think people will.
Well, to Rod's point, I hope that the legislators down there, as you know, they come from all walks of life, that a legislator that owns a tractor store in Coy, Arkansas, listens to somebody like you and doesn't make a decision without your guidance. And I think, you know, he's talking about the health department making the decision. You know, we've got people like you in the legislature that these other guys ought to sit back and listen to.
And I appreciate that. And if people do, I mean, I think people, like when we have bills that have to do with law enforcement, we have retired sheriffs, retired police people, everybody goes to ask them, you know, people are going to ask my opinion and stuff. I'll get the opportunity to share that.
So is there any way?
Once they get landed on you.
No, it makes me scared. It makes me scared.
So I was going to suggest that if you don't mind taking a message back to the governor, and if he likes it, it's my idea, if he doesn't, it's Sonny's or somebody, that all state, the job description for state representative now includes being from the medical profession.
All 100 representatives and 35 senators have to have some sort of medical background.
More.
Just think, you know, it takes you a week to decide, it only leaves a week for the schools to be able to react.
Well, I know.
Just 2 weeks.
I know, but, yeah, I know.
You know that well.
No, I know, I feel it.
It's like you have a touch with the school too.
Yeah, I feel it.
No matter what you do, you ain't gonna make everybody.
No, that's right, man, and we know that. I mean, y'all know, we know that from these meetings, right? Y'all know, you know, we know that from these meetings. So.
Mayor from Barley knows that.
Yeah, I feel like I'm killing two birds with one stone on it. Y'all, I owe y'all a meeting too. Y'all let me know when you will come over and I'll come over.
And remember, he's ours. You can borrow him.
Yeah.
He's Greenwood.
Anything else y'all want to cover?
I was just thinking about, like you're saying, is there any way that is like, I don't know, empirical evidence that you can say, oh, it does look like it's cresting? I mean, there's only so many kids, you know, in the state, and I mean, they're all
So
get
again,
sick.
not to be, you know, Chicken Little, but you know, like all these curves you were seeing back a year ago that were generated out of Johns Hopkins or Harvard, I don't know where, all these Washington, all these curves about what's going to happen. I get every day I get a report from the Arkansas Hospital Association on how many hospitalizations we have in Arkansas, how many beds we have available, how many ICU patients we have, how many patients we're on the vent. And I can tell you that starting about June 30th, we had about 310 hospitalizations, and they've been going up every day. 20, 30, 40, 45, 30, 20, 40, 50, every day. every day. Today we had 1,170, yesterday we had 1,100. And sitting there in the ER, I'm telling you, I was there today, it's not slowing down. There's just spreading like wildfire. And so what I'm seeing is we're still on this, in Arkansas from hospitalizations, we're still on this every day, 30, 40 new hospitalizations. 10 more days at 30, that's another 300 hospitalizations on top of 1,100. The most we had in January was 1,300. That'll put us, you know, on this. But that may not. It may, tomorrow there may be 900. I don't know.
Is it break that down?
Are any of those cases illegals that have come in the United States?
It's a good question, right? I mean, there's no way for me to really track that. And, you know, are there illegals that are winded up in the hospital? Probably. Personally, the people that I've seen hospitalized are people just live around here.
Because I know they're coming in the southern border, and they're busting them, and they're, you know, airplane all over the United States. And a lot of the governors of these states don't even know that.
No, and I understand there is, I mean, there's certainly legal immigrants in Arkansas, and they're certainly accessing our healthcare system. But as far as making up the bulk of the hospitalizations, that's not what I'm seeing locally. The people that I'm seeing hospitalized locally are local people from around here, you know.
Do they show, when you get those figures, do they show you vaccinated and unvaccinated? That's
Yeah.
You know, when I watch the news every night.
I don't get those from the health, from the.
I watch the news every night and they say, you know, new hospitalizations and all that, and I felt like if they would say, yeah, 30 people hospitalized today, 29 of them are unvaccinated.
I don't get those numbers from the hospital association, but the health department tracks that, and it's about 97% of the admissions since the vaccine came out.
I just think if they publicize that,
it would be better.
Help the
Yeah.
people.
And I'll say this, when you look at the 3% or so that are showing up hospitalized, a chunk of those are incidental findings. Because right now, if you come in the hospital for a broke hip, or you know, you come in the hospital for a ruptured spleen, you're in a car wreck, you break your leg, we're going to test you for COVID. Because we're not putting anybody in the hospital right now, we're going to test you for COVID. And some of those 3%ers are not in the hospital for COVID, they're in the hospital because some other thing, and we just happen to pick up people that are COVID.
Anything else for the good doctor / state representative? I never know how to introduce you. That first, which is first? I think it's doctor
I like
first.
Dr. Rep on.
Dr. Rep, there you go.
I got this spot on my arm.
Yeah, no, hey, good line up, man. I'm a better doctor than me, I'm talking to
I think it's safe.
That's much more fun.
I think it's safe to say, and he said good luck, I think it's safe to say we'll be praying for you on Wednesday.
Yeah, me
And everybody else down there making the decision.
Y'all just know I'm gonna do the best I can and you know.
Well, you're there.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the best I can. So.
That's why we voted for you.
I appreciate it.
So fantastic.
Hope you get a chance to do it again.
I mean, who else has this?
Exactly.
Being able to, and she
Thank
really,
you for being
yeah,
on
thank
that.
you. And he does not joke when he says, I'll call you back and I'll text you back, and he does, even with my ridiculous questions.
No, never.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for letting me take some time.
Now, we'll wait and see what the closet is after Wednesday. Thank you, Doctor. All right, moving on. Committee reports. I don't have copies of those here, I don't think. I didn't see them, but some may have sent them in, some may not. But as always, we go down the list. If you don't see anything in your packet or if you don't have a report, please let us know. We'll get it for you. South Space County Boys and Girls Club, no one's here to represent, I don't think. SRCA, Parks Commission, Water Wastewater Commission, so those folks aren't here, but if you have any questions regarding any of those, let me know. No one has signed up on the city forum this evening. Are you leaving us? Or are you just? Okay, thank you again for being here. And
Thank you for everything, Mayor.
thank you. It was an honor.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
Nice to meet
it.
you.
Thank you, sir. Brent, take care. Come see us more often.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Anyway, no one signed up for the citizen forum tonight, and we'll move on to the financial report, which, by the way, I guess that's kind of a segue to reporting on Mr. Tom Marsh, who is currently, this is our finance director, most of you know, is currently still in the hospital due to COVID. His wife is there also. I got a report from him today, and Terry asked me how he was doing. I said, well, he's driving a lot, so he's in pretty good shape. or he's better. My concern is not so much for Tom, it's for the people that are helping him. But seriously, he is in the hospital, and he has been for about a week, along with Tia, his wife. She went in first. So prayers for those folks, and we have other members of our group at City Hall and employees that are affected, either quarantine due to their family members or quarantine because they are positive themselves. So we're watching very closely. We've initiated a few things that as you see, as the forum that we're doing tonight with council, we'll continue to do that, and we'll follow the governors and people like Dr. Johnson's guidance and try to get through this thing. But keep our community in your prayers, and Barbara, since you're here. Agenda additions, we have no actual agenda additions this evening. I didn't even ask the question this morning in the department head meeting, so I guess if I don't ask, we don't get any. I finally figured it out, Lance, I just don't ask them. So we'll get right into business. Old business is planning and building. Mr. Bell, repeal and replace ordinance number 2017, building permit fee schedule, and third reading.
Mayor, Council, Missouri, good evening, and Mr. Terry, glad to see you up and feeling well. This is to repeal and replace ordinance 2017. This is the update of our permitting fees that we have put together to bring us more in line with the other communities around the area. Again, this is for the third and final reading, and I'd appreciate a vote on this so that we can get these enacted and move forward.
Make that motion to approve this by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve by title only.
Mr. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Lance Terry?
Yes.
Tim Terry?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
It's unanimous. An ordinance repealing Greenwood ordinance number 20-17 and all other ordinances in conflict therewith, establishing fees for electrical, plumbing, construction, blasting, and special hauling, mechanical and demolition permits, and for other purposes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, council. Move on to number 3 is, number 2. Too many check marks here. Again, we have honored tonight to have Mayor Gaddis, City Administrator Steve Core, and Robert Barker here, board member, to discuss an item on the agenda, and it is presentation on benefits of aligning alcohol sales countywide. So, Mayor, do us the honor, or whoever. Y'all can tag team, however you want to do it. If you don't mind speaking to the microphone, sir, just to, so we can get your recording.
Well, I'm glad you said that. I didn't want to turn my back to you anyway.
No, you may do that.
Well,
Yeah, it's a little scary to get you back.
Well, I want to say thank you for having us down here tonight. The thing that we're trying to do, I kind of want to bring you up to date while we're here. We would like to get on the ballot next year to vote to ease up the liquor law for every city in the lower Sebastian County district. Right now, if Nashville wanted to go wet or dry, we all would have to vote on that. It's a law that's on the books since the 1940s. The whole district would have to vote if they wanted to go wet or dry on the liquor law. We want to free that up where each city will have the opportunity to do what they want to do. I don't feel like that I need to say anything about Nashville. They know what they want, what they don't want. And same way with our city, with your city. I think it's your privilege and your opportunity to vote however you want to. And that's what we're trying to do. To bring you up to date before we started, a few weeks ago, I called the mayor and I asked him to give me some idea of how we can get this going. Where do we need to start? And we sat down and we talked about it, and we agreed that to get all the mayors together and discuss this and try to get it rolling. Well, let me tell you,
it's easier to catch a 7-pound bass and get all of them there in the same room. That just didn't happen. We tried it, but it was just impossible to get everybody together at the same time. So the next step was to go to each city and talk to their board about this issue. Steve Core, our city administrator, is the center stage. He has made 8 visits to 8 cities in the district and met with their board and discussed this and told them the possibilities, the things that can come out of this as far as revenue for the city and other issues. So that's where we're at. That's how we got started. So with that, Steve has got all the information and he will present that to you. And again, I thank you for having us down here, and I'll turn it over to our city administrator, Steve Core.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank y'all. I wanted to tell you a couple of things. Rick McKinney and I were both in the Air Guard. We've had all the shots in the world. And
look what happened.
I had Pfizer, and there's no doubt in my mind, I'm a veteran of the Hong Kong flu in 1958, and survivor, and that was the first of the real coronaviruses. That was the worst 4 days I ever spent. Let me tell you about the alcohol petition. First off, in 1940s they voted in a crazy election, and they discovered that they had 2 counties in one county. And so they voted the lower townships dry, except the towns that had the coal miners in them voted wet. But they suddenly woke up and found out that Fort Smith, with its like the tail of the dog, had voted wet. Well, they converted that by a county judge who was not a judge, and he was not an attorney, and they had butchered the election. What it really means is, and we've talked about this before, the sales tax that escapes across the state line to Oklahoma is out of sight. You all, we, all of us in Sebastian County and the lower district get a sales tax countywide from the sale of alcohol or any other substance. What happens is that the state, Lee Johnson was a part of the legislature, changed the laws around to where if you have a dry county or a wet county, let's say, and you as your town want to go dry, you can. That's the way the law reads now. Washington County's wet. Prairie Grove didn't want it. They got up a petition called a special election and voted it dry. So where this money comes in this tax is everybody misses that the tax money from that sales tax is general fund money. You go back and look at your budget. The general fund is what handles police, fire, parks, and other items that are general funded. It's not coming down any other way. When you go to buy the fire truck and it's $500,000, that $500,000 is coming out of the general fund. It doesn't come out of property tax. It doesn't come out of water. Water and sewer are audited separately. Sanitation is audited, among other things, as a general. 2 funds in your business, my business, support themselves. That's water and sewer, and the other one is sanitation, okay? Those are what you call enterprise funds. They have to carry their own weight. They have to fix trucks. They have to fix the water and the sewer. That's the only way it is. You get an audit from the state of Arkansas, but you also have to hire, in most cases, a private audit to do your water and sewer, and that report goes down to the state and goes to the Legislative Joint Audit Committee. You have to know where the money comes from. if all of Sebastian County, whether it's wet or dry, will get the sales tax benefit from a countywide sales tax, period. A rising tide floats all boats, and it's that simple. Tax money is in the general fund. That's dear and hard to get. I'll assure you. Your road money comes down, and it's from the property taxes. And it comes in a warrant, and your finance officer will tell you, it comes in a little envelope about like this one, usually pre-sealed, and you best not be spending your road money on hiring police or fire, because they'll come get you. They've already done it to several towns that have decided to get creative with their road money. You can't go doing things besides taking care of your streets and roads, period. The other thing everybody thinks is that if you go wet, you're going to have Joe's Friendly Tavern down on the corner. It doesn't happen like that. All the alcohol sales are controlled by the ABC regulations. Arkansas does not allow a saloon to be open without a license. Liquor stores are state licensed. All the liquor stores in this state, all the licenses are the same number of licenses that existed when Prohibition ended. That's why when a liquor store vanishes, somebody has gone in and bought the license and put it in their hip pocket. That's what happens. You can't have a store just because it feels good. The real number is it takes about 5,000 people in any town to even consider having it. That's about because that's based on the population. It's based on the number of permits, and so therefore when you get through dividing all the permits, if you don't have a 5,000 population in your town, you're not even considered. The other thing, in doing this, y'all have seen the days in the old days where they had petitions, and the petitions were always at the cash register, and somebody went down and made sign them, and nobody witnessed it. Okay, well, is that so-and-so's signature? No. What the petitions, when you petition to place it on the ballot in the general election, it takes 38.5% of the voters in the last general election to get it placed on there. What people don't understand is that you have to take these petitions and you carry that petition with the petitioner and a witness. You don't let it out of your sight, because we have an attorney general down there who is running for another election, and she threw out the term limits petition because they were unattended. You've got to attend and you have to know. And I'm going to tell you now a little bit about it. If you've not been over here to the courthouse and seen the original petitions to vote dry years ago, they used a Big Chief tablet from grade school days, a number 2 pencil, and they marked an X without a witness, and then somebody wrote down who it was that made their X. Now that's what's in there, and they were in a cardboard fold-up envelope tied with string. Now, that is not going to fly. That was that amounted. If you really wanted to think about it, and you never went over and looked at it, you need to, because when they talk about fraud, boy, that's fraud. Anybody could make an X. Now, the only people left when they voted in that election were the few farmers that were still here, the coal miners that were getting coal loads for the government during the war, the ministers, and there were a few of them that wasn't drafted or wasn't chaplains, and the German POWs. The German POWs was out harvesting the crops, and they couldn't vote because they weren't citizens. But that's how the election happened. And if you've never gone back and read in the newspapers about this voting, you're sitting there going, what were they thinking about? And my father-in-law left out to go fight the Japanese, and the place was wet. And when he come back, he got off the troop train, they said it's dry. He said, what's dry? But that's the way it is. Because of the medicine I take, can't drink. Flushes me out. Robbie is here. His belief, he doesn't drink. no one is going to force anybody to drink. But the sales that we are missing countywide is the money that escapes to Oklahoma. And it goes like you wouldn't believe it. And I have talked to everyone except Huntington personally about this. And I think that it's the only time that we're going to actually get about 6,000 signatures countywide in the lower district to get it on the ballot to vote. If you vote for it, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. You're not going to have a beer tub on the corner down here. It doesn't work like that. If you want a beer with a pizza, it's still got to pass the state rules and the state organization. Everybody has the wrong impression about this stuff. And whether you all knew J.C. Ryder or not, he was our police chief at one time, and then he went to work for ABC. And I've had numerous conversations with him and with the attorneys, and as well as with Lee Johnson about what this circumstance is. I would encourage you to think about it and vote. It's money that you guys and gals are not getting. It's tax money that's walking away. And when you go to buy vehicles for police, fire, you go to buy equipment, that money is already over in the state of Oklahoma, where it also went to Fort Smith. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, did you have?
Well, just to follow up, Steve, as I said, he's center stage on this. He knows a lot about what's going on in this world and in this district. And years ago, about 5 years ago, we had a vote in our city to go wet. Some of y'all might remember that. It passed 67%. At that time, we did not know that this law was on the books in Little Rock, that you guys had to vote for us to go wet and dry. So we didn't get it. And as Steve said, you know, everybody participates in the lower district on alcohol sales. Where you're wet or dry, you still participate in the income of the sales from the liquor. If somebody wants a glass of wine at their dinner or a beer, I don't see anything wrong with that. That's their choice. I do see some wrong in alcohol being abused by some things that we know about in the past. But I asked our chief of police on the arrest that you guys make in our city related to alcohol sales compared to drug sales, what is the percentage? It like blew me away. Alcohol sales was like 18, or alcohol arrest was like 18%, 18 to 20%. The drug arrest was like 70 to 80%. So we don't have any problem in our city with alcohol. We do have a problem that we're missing revenue for not selling it in Chaffee Crossing and other places that can benefit of this. So with that, that's our story. That's where we're at. So we thank you for letting us tell our story, and we ask for your support.
Mayor, I have a quick, or just to reiterate, I guess, if you don't mind, is the fact that if this gets on the ballot and it's passed by the citizens, which is, I think, is what's really important, of letting the citizens decide what they want for a city. If Greenwood, or if it passes, Greenwood still can opt out. I just want to make that clear to folks that just because the county becomes wet does not mean Greenwood becomes wet.
You have a choice. You can just sit where you're at.
Right.
But if it goes wet and you say, well, let's vote dry, it's your choice. Your cities can have a special election, as Steve said, and you can vote dry, or if it passes, to go dry.
But you do not have to vote. I'm sorry. You do not have to vote yourself wet if it passes. Correct.
You do not.
You only have to vote to make yourself dry.
That's exactly right.
In that law. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Gentlemen, go ahead, Rob.
So, y'all are, I'm not sure I understand, y'all are gonna start circulating a petition to get it put on the ballot?
Next election.
This next election, y'all, Barlin's kind of heading this up, and you're going around to all the communities just to let them know and try to encourage them to circulate the petition as well?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, and it takes 38% of the last election, which was big.
38% of the registered voters.
That's about 6,000 and some votes that we need to get it on the ballot.
Okay, so you get the 38%, it's done correctly, witnessed correctly, and it gets blessed by the, whoever puts it on the ballot, election commission.
Yeah, the actual commissioner uses it, and then it goes down to the attorney general, and then it comes back blessed and said, yes, you can vote on it.
And then that has to be done in a certain time period. What's the end of that time period?
You want it, I think it is February that you had to have it down to, in February of the year before the election, down to it to be reviewed.
So then it goes on to the general election, and then if the entire county would vote,
The lower township,
the
that's right.
same population that voted to make it dry
That's right,
would vote to make it wet or not.
that's right.
And then once the county's voted wet, those individual communities, incorporated communities, could go in as their own community, put it on the election, and vote it to be dry.
Called a special election, just like it is for any municipal election. And that's exactly what Prairie Grove did, and they decided, hey, Washington County's wet, and we want to go dry. Boom, voted, and that was it.
And that was it.
But you have a choice. Right now, there's no choices that you guys or we have or anybody in the lower district say what we want to do, what you want to do, without everybody saying yes or no to us.
Let's
And that's the thing that I personally think that we ought to change that, in my opinion.
The first thing that I ran into this year, I had an audit from the state of Arkansas. 2 months they were there, 2 years of audit they got because of COVID. And one of the things, the key thing that you got picked up was the general fund revenues and the loss that we have, that we know we could have that money. And you all had, I know you needed a fire truck down here from a previous incident. And I know that you have police cars that you need. Everybody does, equipment, and you have a park. And I know Rick McKinney back here with parks and volunteering, I know he needs a new lawnmower.
Nothing more. Names now.
Yeah, we ran him off.
Yeah.
He's not in charge anymore.
So the petition y'all are wanting to circulate would make it wet. There's no specifics
You would
on.
get it on the ballot to have it, to vote it with.
Vote it wet. It is dry now. To get it on the ballot would be to vote the whole lower district wet.
And then by making it wet, then throughout the county, anywhere that somebody could afford it, that had a liquor permit, they could open up a liquor store.
Not necessarily, because the permits are held, and if there's none available, you're not going to open. That's what I said, the guy put it in the hip pocket. And if you were up at Fort Smith and you drove down a couple of streets, you saw the stores were closed and gone. Somebody bought that permit up and put the permit in his hip pocket.
And I know, I've worked for a few places, I know they've been buying permits out of southeast Arkansas. They lose population, they'll go down there and make somebody a multi-millionaire, move the permit up here to Fort Smith.
But you gotta have, in a town, you need that 5,000, and down there,
They're losing
you
population.
got 5,000 in the whole county. You'd be lucky if you have a county store.
So if the lower Sebastian County become wet, that would give people the ability to open up bars within the community.
If the
As
only
long
way
as
the bar can
Mississippi-
usually for food, it's beyond chicken wings, okay?
Sure.
That's what they've been holding their feet to the fire on that.
Right.
The biggest thing is the town has the prerogative to call that special election and vote themselves dry, period. And what I was talking about the percentage, we did another calculation, it was 73% drugs and 27% alcohol or impaired whatever. And that's the police feed from it.
Is it still, is it the whole county is wet, or is it still the townships within the county? You know, can somebody have a restaurant that serves alcohol, you know, outside our city limits?
They would have to have the whole area, all the lower townships have won, like the Greenwood district would be wet. And if you voted dry, your Greenwood would be dry. Or if it was Mansfield, or if it was Hartford, if they voted dry, or Huntington. But elsewhere, if they didn't vote dry and you had enough people to qualify, that's where the key is. You got to have enough people, and that's one of the things that have kept the tight rein on this. There are not permits, as you say, floating around at will. There's counties in southeast Arkansas where you'd be lucky to have a convenience store, let alone.
So outside the city limits of Greenwood, is I think is what it's asking, they couldn't just pop up because it has to have the amount of people to provide that ability to get that permit.
That's right.
I can understand
5,000 or more?
5,000 is a
Jen
good
Lynn
number.
wouldn't open
I
up.
can understand why y'all are driven, because if y'all could get that bridge built,
Yeah.
that's gonna be a very, very busy area right there.
Well,
There's so much, people think, alcohol is being like a bar or something, or a liquor store. But there's so many people that we've talked to, that, let's say restaurants, they would like to come into our town or any town, but the first thing they say that we've got to have a bar to make our business go. And that people comes in and orders a meal and a bottle of wine or a glass of wine, and it's done. And that's the thing that kind of surprised me when I started thinking about this. You talk about alcohol sales or alcohol beer joints, we used to call them, and whiskey joints and stuff like that. It's changed. When you go out to eat, most restaurants in a wet town, it's got a bar in it. And they say that's what makes them go. It's not that a lot of people comes in there and just drinks and gets drunk. That probably happens, but it's not as much as it used to be years and years ago when I was growing up. But right now, the trend is, seems like if you want somebody to come in your town or open up to somebody that's here already and put a bar in for people to order a glass of wine with their meal or a beer, that's what's going on. And that's what we're missing. And we're missing a lot of revenue because of that.
The Chili's,
This is
all those,
National franchise.
yeah, those
Yeah.
rely on it or certainly incorporate it into their business and they won't come here without that. We realize that.
And you're going to be, and I'm not telling y'all about this, but you already realize that when they get 49 punched through, beautiful downtown Greenwood is going to be on the fringes of the interstate, and you're going to have a whole different approach to who goes through and when.
Sure.
And we look at the same thing. I've had people come and look at the properties that you mentioned around the interstate. I'll believe when the bridge gets there, okay? I've heard promises for years and years and years, but the people that bought some of that land, banked that land betting on the day that it's going to be a change. But it's going to have to be a hurry. And I know of groceries that turned down 2 properties out there. And the reason they did was they needed the ability to have, if nothing else, packaged beer. They turned it down simply because of
Y'all are more organized than we are, though. If I leave Central City, I see a sign 3 miles before I get to Barling that says Barling City Limits.
Yep.
If I go to Hackett, I can drive 2 miles out of Hackett and I see Hackett City Limits sign. I can walk out this parking lot, throw a stone in 3 directions and hit the county. So y'all are more organized than we are. And that's our fault.
Yeah, I mean, this Scott and I go back many, many years, and we, you know, we can talk about things that we've seen and overseas, and you see, I've been in countries where there was no alcohol, it was punishment or whatever, you know, and he's been the same way. But the other thing is nothing that keeps the characters in this country from not controlling it. We can control here. I've been in Germany where you could be 16 and go down, and kids could go down and get him a sausage and a beer. But it's altogether different. It doesn't, it's not the culture that we have. And that's something we have to think about. And then the sensitivity to the community, whether whatever church you go to or don't go to, depends on your view. And if enough vote no, well, that's the way it is. If they vote yes, well, you march on. There's nobody that's going to pour it down your throat. Nobody's going to take you over and make you buy a gunpoint. But now everybody ought to go get that COVID shot. I've got a friend right now that's in Oklahoma City, and he's got on platelet, and he's on the ventilator because they couldn't get him in.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what'd you say? I was.
One of my friends,
Yes.
he's on a platelet machine at Oak City, COVID, and he didn't get a shot.
Yeah, shots need to be taken. Did you have something, Mr. Baker?
Rod's question covered.
Okay. Did the two gentlemen at home have a question or comment? Or?
I have a comment. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
I was wondering, he's talking about voting in the county-wide vote to make the lower half wet. Will people in Fort Smith be voting as well in that, on that ballot issue?
No. It's just the people it affects, correct?
Yes. Cities, 10 cities.
Sir?
It will affect the people of Fort Smith.
Well, it's true. I'm corrected again. That's absolutely correct.
It's not the 10 cities, it's the entire lower Sebastian County, including the county.
There's 10 cities in that little
Right, but it's everybody.
Everybody, Midland, Hackett,
Allegheny County too.
Yeah.
It would be everyone that was not a citizen of Fort Smith.
That's right.
Yeah.
Correct.
You would have people in Fort Smith that would be against it.
Oh, there.
Well, yeah.
That'll be the
Don't
tough.
cut into their back pocket.
Yes.
You've got to
financial.
Huge. We have an economic development committee that Michael Lejean was chair for quite some time. We're going to carry that on, not just for Michael, but because we need it, we have it. And that committee has this discussion and this agenda on our agenda, if you will. Bob, I'm not sure, Bob, are you now the chairman? I think you are, right? So this is something that, as I told Mayor Gaddis last year, whenever we first started talking about this is something that our economic development committee will be pursuing and talking about. I'm just wondering, do you need something from us? I mean, we appreciate you coming. When we were talking the other day at the meeting, I thought you need to come down here to Greenwood for us. We appreciate you coming, and all three of you gentlemen discussing it and giving us the down and dirty on it, as they say.
We're going to turn our attorney loose on preparing the petition so that the language will be without hickeys.
Okay.
Okay.
So we all need to be using the same petition,
Yes.
same wording and
We'll get
everything.
that, we'll pass that around once we get it drawn up, and every petition will be read the same. Each city will get one, or some. And so that's what we're going to start out.
And the witnesses to the signature need to be young enough that if they ever get into court, you can say that, hey, this person saw it, you know, he's alive, he witnessed it. It's like witnessing a will. You want somebody that's young enough to witness the will.
Going to be around a while.
Be around a while, yes.
Just tell them around each time.
Let several of us out, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't guess I have the best with it. No witness here. Well, thank you, gentlemen, very much. We
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
it. Anybody else have a question or thought for these gentlemen? Thank you so much. Appreciate you. And you're welcome to stay the rest of the journey for us.
We just had a planning commission. We've already had a
I hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Mayor, thank you. Appreciate you. All right, moving on to item number 3. You have before you, council, prepared a resolution for your consideration, and also handed out, I know the gentlemen by Zoom do not have this, but I also handed out, and you'll hand out to you an email that was received back in June regarding the Juneteenth holiday, which is a federal holiday, but hopefully you had time to read this from Lanny Richmond, who is heads up the attorney. He's attorney with Municipal League, and this is his comments, his description, and his telling you what it is and how Municipal League gauges their thoughts on it. We do not, I'll paraphrase a little bit, and you can read it better than I want to tell you, but we do not have to put this on. It is a federal holiday, but we do not have to recognize it for our employees. We have that option of doing that. So I just want to get it to you. We talked about this for a while, and I thought, well, let's get it out there and let you look at it. We don't have to vote on it, or you don't have to vote on it tonight even. It's not until June of next year, obviously. So, but it's there for your information, your consideration. If you want to discuss it tonight, that's certainly good with me. So, questions and or comments about what you have?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
The 19th falls on a weekend, but I guess it goes to the previous Friday or the following Monday. How's that work?
Yes, I'm gonna have, that's a good question, and Danielle will address that, because she's been in touch with Lanny and talked about this on different occasions, so I'll let her talk about that.
It goes for any holiday
Yeah,
that falls.
state.
If we were to observe Juneteenth and it fell on a Saturday, then we would observe on a Friday. If it fell on a Sunday, then we would observe on Monday.
Right, that's our standard procedure now with any
holiday.
And there is I think it's in here, I've read this, but it's been a couple of days, the police and fire is affected. Talk about that for just a second. I mean, it's no different than anything else for them, or?
We would have to add it to their
Yeah.
list.
Okay.
So tell me why we have to vote on this if it's a federal holiday?
You don't have to. I can just.
I mean,
It's an odd one, and I don't have the answer to that. It's like you get to choose if you acknowledge it. And I don't know of any other federal holidays actually, we don't have to, like Columbus Day, for instance.
Right, so
Is a federal holiday, but we do not, for whatever reason.
At one point, I was told that, before I was in this position, that, I don't know if you all did it or the employees decided that instead of us celebrating or observing Columbus Day, that the employees would receive their birthday off instead.
Yeah.
That's what I've always been told. So obviously, we don't necessarily have to observe it. It's just something that we put before you because it was brought to our attention from Municipal League.
so it doesn't really affect us as the governing body. So why don't we turn it to the city employees and say, we're giving you 5 paid holidays, y'all decide which one you want to do. Y'all want to all celebrate Juneteenth? Y'all want to celebrate Columbus Day?
Well, but then we're going to have some that'll want it, some that won't, and that probably will not
Yeah.
work out. We actually have 13 paid holidays to our employees because we count their birthday. You can take off at any time, obviously, before it comes up again. And then we also generously let us have off for Thanksgiving and the day after, as well as Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
So would this be 14 now?
It would.
So where does it stop?
Well, I mean,
Wherever you decide.
wherever you decide.
The key word in this here is the president signed a law into act. So that's why I'm asking, why do I have to? Well, we have some that are already in existence.
I bet that's one reason why
Such
one
ones
time
that gets taken off and who don't get to take off.
Yes, sir, Bob.
Well, a federal holiday, by law, only affects federal employees. So they make it a federal holiday and they observe it, but it does not affect anybody else, whether it's a city employee or a Walmart employee, individual employers, in this case the city, would have to say, we're gonna recognize it as a paid day off.
It's just.
We're giving you the option.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, we're giving you the option to put it on the list and let our employees take that holiday. And I had a word there that just left as soon as it came in.
It's just that it just goes on to the benefits, I mean, really.
Yeah.
Well, but when you say like, we had Columbus Day as a federal holiday, but at one time we were just trying to keep, I think, 10 days off, and that's what we're trying to do collectively. That's like 2 weeks, just 2 weeks of vacation on that, and then like I said, I think you threw in, the day after Thanksgiving and the day after Christmas,
Well, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
But it was really, just trying to keep that, to me, 10, would represent basically two weeks of holidays, days off that you're given.
And that slowly grew to 13 now.
13 including the birthday.
Including.
Which, I mean, it's the same as banks.
Which all of these, we never, I mean, I've certainly not said, okay, we're doing this and let's do it. We've always brought it, this first one I've ever brought to your attention.
Well, municipal league advises.
Yeah, and it was advised.
So did the municipal,
It's
did
kind of
Well,
like
they said-
passing.
they say the state?
Can I relate a personal story about?
Yeah, the state,
holidays?
just a second, go ahead.
State employees are, they do recognize it?
Yeah, several towns have taken it in, apparently several
I
towns
worked that day.
have, well, yeah, I know, several towns have
Well-
already adopted it before this was announced.
Yeah,
They already
they-
allow their employees to be off.
And because of the timing of it, I know some waited till after that passed to even look at it as we did. I chose to kind of not bring it to you until after that to see what you wanted to do or not do or whatever. So yeah, if you didn't get it off last year, you're a federal employee, you should be getting it you should be getting it, correct?
Yes.
State employee, I didn't realize the state was.
That's what I had read, and that's what they had said
Yeah,
from
that's what we
municipal league.
understand.
Yes.
Bill, Bob?
I will say this, and this is because there's no press in the room. When MLK Day
You
became
do
a
know he's
holiday,
part-time reporter for.
the city I was in chose not to recognize it at the time. And their reason was, wait a minute, that's money, that's real money. When you pay people to have a paid holiday, that's real money. And it was a fiscal decision that they made. They got eaten alive in the press because the press made it a racial issue. And eventually they said, well, we're gonna make it a holiday. So as leaders of the city, that's what you guys are facing. If you do not address it as a holiday, you will get negative press attention. So that's a consideration.
That's my point that irritates me. It's already right here. Why should it get past us to put us in that position?
Exactly.
That's my whole point. It's been proven to be a federal holiday. Okay, well, all right, there it is.
Well, not just a federal holiday, but if it's been recognized as a state holiday, then to me, that would be.
If you guys don't do it, you're gonna get political heat from the press about it.
We can recognize it as a
Recognize a holiday, not
holiday, but not a paid holiday.
You're just not adding it to the list of
We're
city
not.
of Greenwood paid holiday.
But not adding it to the list of another paid holiday. We could recognize it as
So
a
you can-
holiday.
You can recognize it, but you wouldn't let your employees off.
So,
Sure, make it work like we.
So you're really not recognizing it then.
No, we can't listen.
I say the table until we have time to do a little research.
I second that.
Okay, sounds good. This item will be tabled
Table it until what?
just further, do you want a date or do you want to just,
Do what?
you want to table it for 2
I'm
months?
tabling definitely as far as I'm concerned.
But then you said something that trailed off. For
You
the
said
record, you
further
said until you
discussion.
had time to.
So do a little research on it.
Oh, do research,
What I say,
okay.
Yeah, we will get find out more information.
How about,
The issue needs to come up when you release your holiday, the calendar, the first of the year, but.
That'll be the end of the year, the end of this year.
Still do that.
Yeah, we do that
we do.
every year.
Yeah, we provide that benefit package to,
Calendar that comes out for council meetings,
to approve?
It'll be the end of the year, Tim.
yeah.
So I,
beginning of the year,
End of the year,
So-
end of the year.
yeah.
yeah. So we can table it indefinitely for the record, but we, myself, Danielle, through municipal legal, will bring you more information next month.
To me, that's administrative.
Yeah. Well,
You know what I'm saying? I hate to say it, but
Well, that is, but y'all have to
Yeah,
approve
you
the
gotta-
holiday because it
I can't-
affects pay.
yeah, I can't add something that we're paying
It's a money
to
thing.
change the payroll.
'Cause
Well, I-
Administrative, yes.
Not this year,
And-
but I mean.
And actually, if you would be incorporating it into the budget for next year, if you approved it.
Right,
If not, then not.
yeah.
I say we can table it until we come back with some more information.
Okay,
I need to call
But it's like, Ralph was saying, don't we observe, I mean, we as a city observe the state, what the state observes as holidays, you know?
it. Not necessarily.
no, because we
Not all the
don't
way.
do, because we don't do Columbus Day.
Right.
State observes Columbus Day.
I don't think the state.
I think that-
I don't think the state does.
We don't do just
I
what
think
they do
the
as a rule.
banks observe Columbus Day, I think, not the state.
But I think she's right, I don't think we necessarily
We as a
just
city
follow the state.
Don't observe President's Day as well.
We do.
We do.
We do?
Yes.
Y'all get off and get paid?
Yep.
February 18th.
Oh, worse.
And so do you, through us.
I get off and get
You
paid?
get off, yeah.
You need to come get my
You
service.
you get off from the city, we give you the day off, and you still get your check. So, the answer is yes.
I think we table it until.
Not from your job, research.
Yeah, I'm calling the vote because there was a motion in a second. So,
Yeah.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Lance Terry?
Yes.
Tim Terry?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
So, we'll do that, and then make sure that you, and I'm not saying you don't pay attention, but when you approve those at the end of the year for the next year, make sure that list is what you want on there, so we're all on the same page. But yeah.
For
Good.
paid holidays.
For paid holidays. All right. All right, next item is a budget amendment, general fund for, did I skip one?
Yeah.
Did I? No.
No, it depends on what you're saying.
Budget amendment, general fund for fire alarm system for city halls.
Yeah.
So we have I suppose, or for a long time, our chief's not here to say anything, but we have.
He's on
The
Zoom.
fire chief?
Mhm.
Okay, so we have no fire alarm in this building, right? I know we're right next to the door of the fire department, but they're not there, you guys aren't there all the time. So anyway, my decision, or my bringing to you, was to get that taken care of. It's around $15,000. It's in the resolution, I believe. It's around $15,000 to get us up to date where we need to be with our fire system for our fire alarm. And we had $26,000, I believe, budgeted for the AV system in here that we talked about for a couple of years now. Due to the way we're meeting, I think the AV system can wait. I think more importantly, we get on track where we're supposed to be for fire department. The chief is in on this if he's listening. And so we got two quotes, I believe, from two different companies. And I don't have that in front of me, but there's the one you have. Does it list who they are?
If you're just gonna move money from that AV stuff to this.
Correct.
Like, this is actually less, 10,000 less than what we got in.
Correct.
I make a motion to approve the resolution. Second.
Have a motion and second to approve the resolution.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Lance Terry?
Yes.
Tim Terry?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel? He's thumbs upping.
Thumbs upping?
Yeah.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
So in section 2,
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't know the talking box.
I knew that was coming.
So it said the remainder of the year is $400. So the yearly fee to monitor the system is $800 a year. Is that correct?
City council,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes?
Yes, because it's only for so many months.
Is that right?
Of this year.
Making sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be $140 a month, I believe, is the monitoring.
Yeah, there's,
Or no,
they'll
that,
have attachments in there
yeah,
that
she's got it.
Yeah, it's
shows,
in there, yeah.
that shows that monthly cost.
Was that monthly borrowing about the same with the other quote too? I mean.
Yeah, actually, this was,
So this is with Universal,
Yeah.
which was 15.9, I believe, and then the other one I received was from Gilbert Technologies, which was 19,000. I compared both services to make sure that everything matched up.
So the monthly monitoring both, for both, and I guess I don't know about monitoring commercial versus, residential.
Well, it says right here, the monthly monitor by the third party monitor is $40 a month.
$40, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
$40 a month.
Which is
Yeah.
cheap.
Yeah, it is, because for our, like, security alarm, we pay $54 a month for the security alarm.
So, but his question was, so the $400 is from now?
The initials.
So $150 initial setup.
Right,
Okay.
okay.
And then it's only
$40
$40
a month.
Okay, so that's the 150 plus the 40 for the remainder of the year, which comes out to $400.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so $40 a month from now on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And this company was recommended by the fire chief,
This, and the school district uses them.
and the
also.
other school district uses
So
it.
fairly local.
Yes, very local. Mm-hmm, maybe you're not
Ignorant.
really, yes.
It's a little-
There's nobody really truly local service, because
Sure.
I've got burning alarms at my house for fire and police, and it's $50 a month.
Yeah.
Well, I do think that this is a code violation, and the AV system is not.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
So
correct.
I don't know how we got a permit to get this thing built without.
I don't even, but I wasn't here.
Does that affect our insurance? I mean,
You would think, we've not asked, but I think that'd be a good answer. We
Sometimes you
can-
don't ask.
I know, some things you don't, but this ought to be the one we can.
I get a 10% discount on mine, just because I would not monitor.
But we have that answer for you next time, whatever that saving is we can talk to. That's Teresa, or is that Bastion here?
Wait,
Teresa. Boundary. All right, so did we pass that?
Yeah.
Voted? We did vote.
Unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Next item is finance resolution to amend budget for ARPA funds. This is not just good news, this is wonderful news. Tom's not here, obviously. Did he? He didn't. So you want to jump in on this? Let me just say this real quick. This is a big deal, and we're grateful and we're blessed. And Charlotte and Tom both have been on top of this, all over this from the beginning. And I listened to them, and then I do a little zooming, or not zooming, I'll watch the municipal league. And then Charlotte and I recently went to Big Garen for a meeting that Lanny
John Wilkerson.
John Wilkerson came and spoke on it. He gave an hour briefing on it and crammed a whole lot of information in an hour, but it's all good news, so.
I'll make a motion, we adopt the resolution for the ARPA fund.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Did y'all second together?
Right.
Okay, got it. Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Lance Terry?
Yes.
Tim Terry?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Unanimous.
So what we will do soon with you gentlemen and with the, I'm going to give it real quick with the.
Can I, I was
Yes.
just gonna, real
Yes.
quick, just say this.
Please, please,
For anyone that doesn't know what this is,
please.
the city received $972,655.12 into our general fund from the state of Arkansas for our portion of the American Rescue Plan Act. All of the cities in Arkansas got money based on their per capita from the state, because it was passed to the states to distribute to us. We got that much this time, and then we're gonna get 1 year later the same amount of money in a second tranche, they call it, it's their word. But so we will end up getting $1.9 million. And it can be spent on, I put it in the third whereas, I think it is, or, yes. The items, the eligible items you can spend this money on. We are gonna set up a restricted virtual bank account because it can't commingle funds. So we gotta isolate it and really do the best paper trail ever, which we do anyways, but, on this money, when you do have to obligate this money by, I think it's November of this year or something like that. I'd have to review that. So you will need to obligate this money and figure out what you're going to do with it soon, in the next few months. And I would encourage you to, also, by the way, we just took that motion in second, but you need to figure out which section, 1A or 1B, that you want in this resolution, because one of them I have in there what you're going to appropriate the use of this money for, and the other, which is section 1A is no appropriation as of yet. You will figure it out later. Section 1B is to appropriate it. Go ahead and say you're going to use it for water and sewer infrastructure purposes only. And the reason why that's important is the state has a pot of money as well that they, for grants, it's the revolving drinking water fund or something like that. Drinking water revolving fund is what it is. And they have a survey set up that they want us to answer in within a week. We don't have to know all the details of what we're doing. They want to know if we're going to spend it on water and sewer. And if so, we can put our hat in the ring for additional money. I don't know how much, but it'll be free money from the state if we're going to use it for water and sewer infrastructure.
So we should have accepted, passed the resolution accepting like 1A or 1B.
Well, that's what she's saying.
Yeah, I'm giving you that choice.
You have a
You're
choice
the
here.
body that approves the use of this money, how.
And let me tag on to what she said. So municipal league, and I know we don't have to follow all of municipal league's suggestions, and we do sometimes, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we seek other advice. Municipal league, I think I can say very easily that they are saying to us, here's what John did. There's a rubber band. Here's the rubber band, and if you don't have to stretch it to make it work for you. You can stretch it a little bit if you want to, but you're taking a chance of.
If you try to get too creative with the way you spend it,
Yeah.
you just say,
You can mess it up.
be very clear as spending it on an eligible use that you can easily prove.
And one of those is water sewer infrastructure.
So you're saying that there's additional free money out there for water and sewer from the state of Arkansas?
If we
If you use this money for
If
that.
we use this
You can
money?
go ahead and say, we're using this money for that. We can throw our hat in the ring for some hopefully additional money. They're going to award it to, I don't know how many select few. They want to know what we're spending it on, and so they get to decide that. They may help us out with more money. I don't know how much.
So the additional money has to be spent on water and sewer also?
Yes. So the state is wanting to know, out of all these cities, who all is going to spend this money on water and sewer, so that they know how much money they can divvy out
Is it
to
an
help
all,
us.
is it an all or nothing, or can it be half?
When do they need to know that by, Charlotte?
Oh, they want the deadline for the survey is like August 13th or something like that.
Half and half what?
I mean, so can we say 500,000 goes in, we're gonna use it for something else?
I think what they want, if your commitment is water sewer infrastructure, to my knowledge, that's what.
So lost revenue is one of the eligible uses. We didn't have much to speak of. We actually did really good. Our tax receipts were high during the COVID period. It's a period you go look back like to March of last year, and they have a calculator that you can figure your lost revenue. And I just don't see how we could claim it for that. We do not have this, certainly $972,000 for the $4.9
They
million.
didn't leave you a whole lot of options.
Right, broadband infrastructure, we're not gonna do that, I don't imagine.
They just didn't say infrastructure, they said broadband infrastructure.
Right.
Do what, Daniel?
Is it an option if we vote this? I mean, I'd like to keep it unappropriated, and we get together in a study session with our finance people and kind of talk about what we want to do with this and with the next tranche that will come. It's a money to make a knee-jerk decision.
Right.
Well, yeah, I agree. I think that's good, but you just have to recognize the date that they want
We got 2 weeks.
this decision to be made, yeah.
Well, for that extra money.
For the possibility, I think,
Right,
of
of
that
that Arkansas
extra money.
that's in that pot.
So if we have still sections in town that haven't had sewer added to them, we could.
Thank
Yes.
you. My
It's eligible
My cent and a half on this is, and I haven't done it with the water, and by the way, the Water Wastewater Commission obviously will be part of this discussion, I think, and then you guys are the final decision of that, as always. But my sermon, if you want, or whatever you want to call it, is going to be, there are, and I've said this before, there are areas in Greenwood, Arkansas that have never been offered sewer. Some of those folks don't want it, don't care, but they're fine with their septic tank. I was on Evergreen Street. When I became mayor, the first thing my neighbor said was, so we're going to get sewer now? I said, I don't think so. That'd be the last thing I'll do is to get it up here just for me and you. But there are areas that are underserved or non-served. I mean, they just don't have it. And Old Hanger Road, and different areas. So I think it's imperative as for us to go toward that and say, what can we, and by the way, 1.9 will not sewer everything in Greenwood. I want us to focus, if we can, on the unserved in Greenwood, city limits. I think it's almost crazy that you live in the city limits and you don't have the option of having sewer.
You gotta stop and think that we annexed a bunch of stuff in. I mean, we did up 10, up 71, and all those places. I mean, our water line stops in that Church of Nazareth.
Yeah.
That's never gonna grow out that way unless you got water.
Right.
So, I mean.
No, I'm for new growth too. So
You know,
on
I'm just
that,
saying, I mean, they don't leave you a whole lot of options, but so, I mean, it's pretty obvious that for us, it's gonna benefit us.
sure.
Of places that need to be freshened up on the sewer and maybe possibly put some more lines in the ground that don't have.
Oh, I'm going to point over at this thing on the wall that we've been talking about, and everybody's discussing. So again, 1.9 will only do so much, but I think a good focus is for non-served and going out to where we need to serve to get ready for these new. We all say we want to build houses. We're struggling with housing, so.
Water and Sewer Commission's looking for where they can
Yeah,
find the
so
funds.
it's crazy to think, well, it's pretty awesome to think with the world the way it is now, but here's almost $2 million thrown in our lap within 2 years.
With the potential for more.
For the potential for more, and here we are looking at 251 homes out there, looking at that way on 10, when that widens, or makes 4 lanes out there. And obviously, I'm gonna tell you, we're all, you give water, wastewater $2 million to do something, it also frees up their money to do something else, so more things, so.
So Charlotte, can I make a motion to adopt 1B?
Yes, you can.
Okay, I make a motion to adopt 1B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt 1B, the resolution.
Which one is 1B, I'm sorry?
That is.
That's the one that appropriates for water and sewer.
Water and sewer only.
Right.
That's really the only option we got.
Yeah.
Mr. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Lance Terry?
Yes.
Tim Terry?
No.
And Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
It passes by majority.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I will answer that survey, or we will, Mayor, and that will tell the state that we want some of that money.
And there's something about acting quickly when you have something like this in front of you.
Yes.
Whether it be grants or free money that they like. And Charlotte touched on it a while ago, so, and this is not going to be, I believe, what's the rules that come into play here that I wasn't.
Oh, there's a it's
which
a
appropriately named.
federal regulatory
That we
deal
will
on
follow
grants.
the rules and make sure.
Or we have to pay it all back.
Because this can be forced to be paid back if you don't do it right.
You don't
So,
use it right.
So, the Water Commission's pretty good rule followers.
they are, so,
I
yeah.
think their due diligence, I think, would be okay. But if it's going to go into the general fund, did I hear you say
Yes.
correctly, then that should be our total control.
It is.
How it's spent, as far as the Water Commission just can't go, oh, we're going to
Right.
go on this heyday. It's going to have to, this general fund money is going to have to go through us.
Yeah, in the budget,
In
you
order
can
for it
see
to
it
be
clearly,
spent.
it'll have its own sheet.
Yeah, it won't be like,
It's not going to be in their budget.
Yeah, you won't, because now with water, wastewater, whatever you put in their budget
Is theirs.
is theirs, and they
But
choose.
this money here is.
Stays in the general.
Stays in the general, so we'll be, mayor and ourselves will be under direction of it. So they can't just go, well, I'm gonna go here and do something crazy off the wall and spend it.
Well, August 13th is the date, as I said earlier, that the survey has to be answered.
Or worse, not spend it.
Right.
That seems to be.
That can be a deal too, where we can put some pressure of saying, hey, you need to get this spent.
Yes.
I like the idea of the underserved part. You know, run out some of these people who live here for 100 years.
I get asked every day when this is going this direction or this direction. And I know, again, you know, you may pass Bell Road, for instance. By the way, that's on target for a new startup on August the 9th. Finally, it went back out for bid, all that, we're back on. You know, the situation I'm talking about down there on Bell Road. That's supposed to start up again on August the 9th, and it'll be a good one and good one. So we think once they get started, it'll get done. That's going to go past, I mean, that's going to go along in front of, I'm going to say 20 houses. I don't know how many there are. They may not all choose to tie onto it, but at least they have the option.
Now, is that water or sewer?
That is, oh,
That's sewer.
that is sewer.
That's sewer.
I'm almost like I gave a speech and it was not necessary. That's sewer.
So the thing about it is that this little thoughts commission, I mean, you seen what we did with less than $500,000 on Tim's Park.
Right.
With water. You know what I'm saying?
And what did it do?
A little less, I mean, it was actually $364,000 to be exact. That we ponied up, but look what it did.
They'll let the nickel come and they did.
And so,
This could go a long way to punch the highway.
yes, there's a lot of, if a little thought process goes through, that if us passing this tonight means that we get, that we may get another meeting.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know how much money.
You know,
is in there.
so a lot of good can be done with this because the water and sewer key all there. We've had that conversation 1,000 times, you know, you got pipes in the ground.
The states say what their match may be, they allude to, is it like 50%?
No, it's not a match.
They just said money.
They said they've got this pot of money, they want to know who all's using it and what they're going to use it for, and then the state will decide.
So we could get 30% more.
Yep, we could get $30,000, we could get $1 million, we don't know yet. I don't know how much money they've got sitting there.
But I can,
A possibility for free money.
Yes,
Right.
yes, yes,
If it's 10 grand, it's better than nothing.
yes.
so, okay, thank you, gentlemen. I think that's a step a giant step for mankind in the right direction. Number 6, Water Wastewater Commission. They met and they are presenting an ordinance amending Ordinance 1409, allowing a stipend for commission members on for first reading. I was not able to attend that meeting. I typically make 97, 80%, 90, whatever. I make most of those meetings, and I did not make that one. So I wasn't present during the vote.
So that 1409, that ordinance come from me and Lee. It originally come from Daniel.
Right.
Years and years ago, it was repurposed, to come from me and Lee. I wrote it in there that they'd serve without compensation. It had nothing to do with state law. What they're asking to do is be treated like everybody else, just like the
The only
planning
one,
commission.
planning commission.
That's the only one.
Only.
That's all they want.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And I also wrote it into the Parks Commission to serve without compensation too.
yeah, I think they're not allowed by law.
I think that that reflected state law.
Yeah, some state laws, some of these commissions cannot get paid, others
We
can.
stuck, I stuck it in to this one. I don't see any difference in the treatment different than the planning commission, $25. You know, when you become an employee, when you become compensated, you definitely probably think more about your fiduciary responsibility, the decisions you're making. You're being paid by the citizens of Greenwood to make these decisions, so it's small. I'm not against it.
Sorry, man, there was.
Didn't say I was for it.
So, yeah, I don't know if it's important that you know, but it was a 3-2 vote.
Yeah, it passed by majority from.
I got a little down there that says they're going to compensate them $25 per meeting attended.
Yeah, what is per meeting?
So they're trying to increase their attendance.
Once a month.
Every public meeting that they have.
So are they struggling with attendance?
Per public meeting.
That's my knowledge.
Maybe just once a month, like they do.
Yeah, they meet once a month. No, I don't think they're struggling with
That's right, you said on it as a.
the, I mean, Tate, was to replace Steve, and, you know, there was just a thing with his scheduling or whatever, he missed a couple of meetings, but it seemed like, I think that pretty good attendance.
But there's a meeting with James Fort Water.
No. That should be their regular meeting.
They commonly have one missing from each of their meetings. They probably have half the time full quorum and half the time somebody missing. But it's only a 5-member commission, so, and the chairman doesn't vote unless he needs to or whatever at the time.
I second AC's motion.
What did AC make a motion to approve it?
Is there a councilman that sits on that commission?
AC Brown.
This is a liaison.
Just as a council advisor?
Yeah.
Will he be part of the $25 dip?
No.
Mine was 50.
Because he's not a member of the commission necessarily, like
Charlie?
voting member. Yes.
Charlie? Section 2 of that ordinance, the one that I have in my package, that looks like emergency.
It looks like it has a what?
Looks like an emergency clause legal.
No, it's not. It just says it'll be in full force and effect from and after its passage and publication, that it doesn't say it's an emergency.
Ours does not say emergency.
There's no emergency
No,
in
you,
it.
first reading.
I did it on purpose that way, because I knew y'all wouldn't want to put an emergency. I put that language in most of these ordinances, it just, Mike, have you read it? Are you looking at the ordinance?
$25 stipend isn't exactly helping public peace, health, and welfare in the city.
They can buy a YouTube video.
Do what? Oh. So we have a motion and a second, I believe. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Terry?
Yes.
Tim Terry?
No.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Passes by majority. I'll put it on, that motion was for first reading by title only, is that right, Mr. Brown?
Yes.
All right, I'll read it. An ordinance amending ordinance number 14-09, providing a stipend for water wastewater commission members of the city of Greenwood, Arkansas, and for other purposes.
So do we need to make an amendment to the budget then?
This has to go through 3 readings.
Well, I mean, will we have?
Yes, you will budget it in for next year.
Yeah.
That'll come out of their budget.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, they got their own budget, I'm just saying it will.
And not from the 972,000.
They'll have to figure out how to find it in their budget.
There you go.
instead of-
Figure it.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. That's the last item on the agenda, department reports and questions. Let me tell you why the room is cleared now, basically. We have two really devoted department heads here. I gave permission this morning at a department head meeting. I didn't ask for agenda additions, but I did tell them if they were on the agenda to please be here and, to speak on behalf of that item, but if they were not on the agenda, to feel free to be at home due to seating and our issues with COVID. But they were all going to be readily available if you had questions for them by phone or Zoom. So that's why not everybody's here. But if you have questions and we can't reach them, Chad was the only one that, I believe somebody said this morning, lives in the boondocks. So not on 71 where you can order food, but he's at the Booney, yeah, or alcohol. But we had Sonny and Tammy here if you have any questions. But if you have questions for them, they're not here, we'll get them to them tomorrow and get an answer for you. If you've got or an issue about something going on or not going on.
I have a question just about the street lighting. Have you anything about the street lighting? You know, you had that moratorium on it, you know, we talked about, you know, or have you pursued about painting?
That's Chad's department. I don't know where they are on that. I know that they've got, decided on a street, light design and the number that's going to be installed out there, and they're moving forward with it, but that's all I know about it.
Are we going to come up with a, I guess, you know, regulations or, you know, I mean, something that, so that
Again, Chad's
going
looking
forward, we'll be able to say, you know,
Chad's
this is
looking
what's
into
going to
that. There's nothing in the ordinances now. He's going to look at putting something in as an ordinance, and then we'll move forward with it. We've looked at both of our providers, Arkansas Valley and SWEPCO, to see what they offer as far as decorative lighting. He's got photos of those, and I've driven around every neighborhood in the city to see what they have, and we've got some unusual lights out there. But you know, the big question I think that Chad is looking at is what can he get that qualifies as decorative light that is provided by the SWEPCO or Arkansas Valley that they will maintain. That way he won't have to have a inventory of 4 or 5 different lights, different neighborhoods. I know he's working on that.
So
what was the outcome of Linwood?
So
That's
Linwood,
what I'm talking about. They decided on a decorative light from Arkansas Valley. It's an LED, and they talked about the number of lights that Chad would like to have out there, you know, and the position of them. And so they're moving forward with that.
so Buddy came to see me. I think he talked to you and Mr. Powell, I believe, by phone, I think, is what he told me, or somebody. Okay, did he not contact you?
He calls me a lot.
I know. So I gave him blessing from me, or because I understood that he had talked to you, and so he's going to put up the only decorative light that SWEPCO, Arkansas Valley, they have one. As far as a non-wooden pole, it is not decorative in the sense that it matches downtown or Denver Street at all. It's as tall as it's supposed to be for a street light metal pole. It's not. It's grayish in color, and the light at the top is it looks like a robot, if you will, to me. You have it?
Yes.
So Buddy's going to put 3 of those up. And the reason I said go do it, because you need to get lights. People are living there already. It's the only non-wooden pole that AVAC offers, period. On the other hand, SWEPCO, when we get to the SWEPCO area, they got all kinds. It's kind of odd. But my point, as much as anything, was to get a pole up that Greenwood, the street department, does not have to maintain, like you just said. It's not ours. So this is that pole. 3 of those on the south side of Linwood, which is the opposite side of the triplexes. He doesn't have to cut sidewalks and do anything. It's fresh ground. He can put those in, and then he's going to put 1 wooden pole on the opposite end of the road, or I guess down on Ware.
Yes.
Because to match the one on the other end on where that is. Forest Hills. Yeah.
Do what?
Can we see the?
And
Yeah.
so a work order has been issued for that. I drove out there today to see that.
Can you, or tell me when you can see it?
Go closer
Come on up a little bit.
and go up.
Okay, yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Okay, they're gonna paint the pole black.
No.
They're not?
They're not.
Okay.
The painting of the pole was gonna be another $300 per pole. And I told Buddy, I thought he was kind of going above and beyond what he had to do, because as you know, the ordinance says you match what's there, and what's there wouldn't. So he kind of did a step above that with this one. We can paint the pole.
That's what I thought it was gonna do.
Well, yeah, he's not responsible for it because it added another $900. I mean, that's not gonna break him, but I didn't see. We can paint it. My question to AVAC was, and I did it through Buddy, is if we paint that pole, how long is it gonna last? You know, painted, you know, we can be out there every 6 months. I don't know the answer. They haven't really answered that either.
Probably galvanized.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna fly.
I like that.
It's unfortunate that they don't have a better looking pole. SWEPCO has a bunch.
Yeah.
Is this gonna be an issue on the new neighborhood?
The new, well, I think that's the point of what AC was referring to a while ago, is getting something. It's not going to be, Buddy has said, and I'm going to speak for him, but he has said, I think with Jamie and anybody else, Sean or whatever, that they want to do something that's going to look nice in that neighborhood. What we have to decide and what that ordinance needs to reflect is the difference between these are called wayfinding lights because they're up in the air and they give you that. The decorative poles that we have around the square and on Denver that we did they're not for that. They're to look nice and they light a little bit where the sidewalk is. So Buddy, and again, I'm speaking for him, I guess, but I think his intentions are is to do something nicer than what this pole is in 251. But we need to get our
And Rod, in that case,
information together for him
that's
to
going to be
have.
an HOA, and so they can be responsible for their own lights. I mean, that's what I'm moving towards, as we move forward on this and working with Chad, is to understand that, that if they're going to put in decorative lights, they can't just turn it over to us and say, okay, guys, here it is. That whole subdivision out there is going to be under an HOA. And so the street lights will have to be negotiated that would be their responsibility. That's what I'd like to see.
I think Buddy fully intends, or he told me, and I kind of joked with him, I said, I like those decorative stop signs up in Chaffee Crossing, the subdivisions up there, they're black and, they're only red on the stop sign, but they're really nice. And they're basically like our lights on the square, but it's not a light. And I think that's his intention, is to go in that direction with that subdivision. But that's all to be talked about. But until we get something in an ordinance to require that, what we have is what we have. So, in my opinion, him putting up 3 of these things is kind of more than he had to do. But it is more than he had to do.
Yeah, but I think it's something that we do need to address, because apparently, just you were coming up with, residential guidelines, you just, think about the lighting.
I definitely want to get us all on the same page and get something. There's nothing better for his office, my office, to anybody just to go, here's what, I know you say this all the time, here, this is what we have. Well, if you have questions, let us know. But
Otherwise,
but some of that's not in there, and we didn't know that until now. We discovered that during this process.
Do you want to go ahead and start an ordinance requiring lights, it's a standalone ordinance?
I want us to discuss it and look at what was the right thing to do. Yeah, absolutely. Now, again, there's going to have some real discussion and study and real information about. I envision that subdivision have those black lights, something similar like that. What a pretty sight. Are they functional? Go down on Garrison Avenue, downtown Fort Smith, and they're green, but they're like every 20 feet. And they have the lights at Garrison Avenue. So I don't know. There's subdivisions up in Chaffee Crossing that have decorative lighting. Are they working? Do they present a problem or non-problem for the police department? I mean, are they sufficient for safety?
That's what I mean. If you're going to put in 251 houses, I mean, you're going to want some lighting that lights the neighborhood up.
Right.
Because you're going to have people that are going to want to walk at night, and that type of deal. And bad as I hate to say it, today's society and the crap that goes on, the last thing you want is we've struggled with fixing it since I've been on the council, trying to light some of these neighborhoods up because they're so dark at night. So, I mean, I want nice decorative light, but at the end of the day, I want our police to be able to drive out there and it's still, it's lit up. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes the pretty bulbs don't do that.
No, and you have and you can mix them. You can do that. And there are subdivisions, not here, but there are those that have these nice, pretty lights scattered, and then you have a taller, it can be black, it can be decorative to a degree, not with AVEX so much. I'm not down.
See, I can envision on me, just from being around the construction world, I can envision that main entrance in there being some type of decorative lighting, but once you get branched out into the streets to where actually all the lots are and the homes are gonna be, I mean, I would seem to think you would want more aerial lighting
Right. And
protruding down than just this glow.
so we have, and like Sonny said, I didn't know, he brought me a picture, like, that's not here. There's some lights in Maple Ridge Heights, you know, that are aggregate on, is that how you say it? Is that what that is? It's gravel on the side of them. He showed me.
Driven by them 1,000 times and never noticed it until
So,
I was going up there to see who serviced them, you know, swept them.
but I
They say
think
they're gravel. I mean, they,
I think there's some tall, like you're describing, not ugly, but somewhat decorative in the oaks and
Yeah.
stuff there.
they said they look a lot like ADAC, except black.
And I would have bet you before I went out and drove around myself that, because I was encouraging Buddy to put them on both sides and, you know, zigzag, and he goes, that's not how that works. You don't have to do that, you know, as long as there's space. And Chad is on top of the spacing of these three. By the way, there's communication, and they're agreed on where the other, or the four. So no, I totally agree, we need to get together and do something, and come up with some.
Too much, you end up with what we had in
Right.
Maple, Grand Maple, where they start shooting them out.
Right.
So they can sleep.
Right. So,
So we let that little park out,
he got
and then come out there with the BB gun, and take them out.
put them out.
We've looked at lighting
I keep waiting
ordinances
for
from
it.
other cities, some of them are that thick, and then some of them are 2 pages. You know, we're trying to come up with a happy medium, and we can put it in there, you know, and make an amendment to our subdivision regulations and have it. But the only thing it says in subdivision regulations right now, that it says in the preliminary plat, the light, location and quantity will be listed, and that's it. That's the only thing we can find in
Puts
all
it
of our
on down for
ordinances.
quantity, and they might just say one.
Do I?
So they could just say one.
Well, they could show one, but then it goes to when Chad's looking at sidewalks and things like that, he can say, no, I want one every so many feet, and they need to be decorative, they need to be LED, and they need to, since you're in, SWEPCO, here's.
Our neighborhoods are mixed, so Arkansas Valley's maintaining some, and SWEPCO's maintaining some, and then on the streets and in the square and the parks, we're maintaining. Is that
Right.
Yes, that's what I understand.
That up there is probably gonna be Arkansas Valley.
Now where?
Yeah, I think so.
It should be.
Yeah, that's all Arkansas Valley.
So Councilman Terry, Zoom, Councilman Terry, Tim,
Yes.
is that LED light that I put across the road still lighting up your kitchen?
Yeah, but I'm thinking about taking the bulb out, fixing the one in the city hall parking lot.
Okay, just checking. We put 3 out, we added 3 LED lights to Mount Harmony for people that walk on that sidewalk, and I think it may be him walking, I'm not sure.
They look fantastic, I appreciate it.
Anyway, so, and they're just this little, you wouldn't even know they're there if you don't really look up there, because they're just
Yeah,
little
they're
bitty.
very bright, they do a good job of illuminating.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of options, but no, I agree, we need to get something in place as we move. That came up just recently, right here in this room, with a pre-construction meeting with the Berg project out on 10 Spur. It's the little, there by the feed store and all that, so they're here with their engineers, and Chad was able to say, well, let's talk about, I think he had to be coached a little bit, but we talked about lighting out there and where they should be and how many and all that, so. Okay, that answer that question, thought. Anything else for anybody? I would, again, thank you ladies for being here. Yes, sir.
Is the councilman for me?
Yes,
So we.
it is.
Expand on our financial director he's still in the hospital.
Correct.
And T is, what's his wife's
Tia.
name? T is still in the hospital.
Yes.
Are both of them on they're not ventilated?
No, neither will have been ventilated. They've been receiving what Tom referred to. I'll just tell you so I don't mess it up. They have IV, my phone's dead. They have been on IV, and it's a medication, it's COVID medication.
It's a monoclonal infusion.
There you go.
That's exactly.
That's coming from the
I can tell you
horse's
exactly
mouth
what it is.
right there.
Thank you, Dr. House.
I'm just telling you, that's what it is, it's an IV, it takes about an hour per bag.
Did you do that?
I was going to, but we didn't. We took a different route.
Yeah.
But that's what it's called, it's monoclonal antibody infusion, is what it is.
Our other employees, they're not in the hospital.
No, no one else is hospitalized, to my knowledge.
But you have to take that at least 5 to 7 days of your onset symptoms. A lot of times, for it to actually,
Do its thing.
it's a good deal, really good.
I'm glad Councilman Terry's doing well.
Yes, very much. I didn't elaborate on that earlier because I didn't know how much you wanted
I'd
to
rather not.
in the
Knew
city,
he
but
was doing well when I called him, he was bored, so I dropped him off some lube and he moved his garage.
Daddy, well, I offered. I offered to clarify. Yeah, thanks for clarifying, yes.
Well, I meant, yeah.
No, it's okay, it's okay.
Quit while you're ahead.
You're digging a hole.
Oh, my goodness.
So I was gonna offer him paint. I've been painting at my house and I was gonna offer him to come up there and do that, but I didn't want him near me, so we didn't do that either.
I appreciate all the texts and all the offers of helping out.
I kind of felt a little not, anyway, so Tim, or Lance was affected up across the angle. By the way, you can still shoot his laser down there to see once in a while, but across the street, we have another employee that has been quarantined, not because he's got it, but because it's his mother, so all two sides of me, so.
You can't say the employee's name?
I can, I guess.
Well, his mother.
He's quarantined, it was Tim Gossett, and I think he's
His
out.
mother's my neighbor, so
Yes.
I was curious more
Yes.
about the neighbor.
Yes, she was, yeah,
I think she's doing all right.
I think so.
I texted him, asked him, if she's kind of doing all right.
I like to know when my neighbors are in trouble.
So. Yes, sir?
I've asked you a while back, and it's nothing major, because I think Rod was going to like maybe work on getting it for a project of getting 2 more flags.
I've been begging for that for a while, yeah.
To dress that up instead of having all
Three-
the flags on
three-pole
one,
presentation.
on one flag pole, it just, to me, it doesn't look professional.
I agree.
So I mentioned it to you, but the reason I bring it up, because I think somebody was going to maybe do it for a project or something.
Well, I mentioned, talked to Rod about it, and I know the guys pick their own projects, but it's always there. And if it's not, I'm ready to kind of move on that maybe next year's budget of us
Right.
doing it, if it does become a scout project. I thought it would be a great scout project, but if you don't have anybody.
I just kind of wanted to not get forgot about.
No, I think about it every time I go out and,
Because we know we do,
Raise those
when we
flags.
do, we have to lower the flag half-mast. I mean, it's kind of, it's not real.
You know, I've got,
well, the Greenwood flag ends up not on the ground,
Right.
pretty close.
Ralph seen it, I've got like 200 projects on my list, because
Right.
people give me all these great projects, and they're fantastic projects. And I got 2 kids that are ready for projects.
Okay. Well, I think I can say, I mean, it's the council's decision, but I think this one would be paid for by the city.
Yeah. I just think it's something we ought to, I mean, it can't be that expensive to get another couple flag poles.
And one councilman's gonna go home and ask about that project.
Good. So, and I would say to you and you, scout guys, that pole, because I don't know how high that is. I know you can measure, and I think we figured out a way to do it. I haven't done it yet. Went to Yeager's, bought some string, raised up there, or you can stand back and do this number, right, whatever. Anyway, I think the determination needs to be made if that pole would suffice as the tallest and the 2 short. I don't know if that's right, or that would be a short one, you could add another short and a taller. Does that make sense?
I don't know how that works. I just know that like at the courthouse, I mean, like the way that looks.
Yeah.
They got-
Well, in square.
Even at the Farmers Bank, they've got it.
Yeah, the only problem there, they use a tiny flash.
Let's go out there and look at it.
Okay. Okay. No, I'd like to see it landscaped around it.
Yeah, just, I mean, I don't know, just, this is our the main office, and it just, I don't know, it's making it look better not to have all 3 flags stacked on top of each other.
Yeah.
Not really.
Since we,
It's a one, it's not a big.
No,
we're, water and sewer infrastructure, you know, the new leases and annexation, you know, going west. You know, how we look on getting annexation.
So you got anything?
We've got the annexation and all the legals that you saw on Highway 71 from Jenny Lynn down to the end of the 4-lane, Highway 10 and 10 Spur. The last that we had was Von Douglas when he was talking to us and says, get ready for a lawsuit, and it was kind of dropped at that point, but it's there. I've got it, and it's, again, it was put in front of the county judge because the people at GIS were a little apprehensive about it too, and we were wanting the judge to give his blessing on it, which he has not done.
Yeah, he's kind of just said to me, what do you want me to do with this? And I don't mean that bad, I'm not sure
I gave him the letter from the GIS, which said we're a little uncomfortable with this, and we'd feel better if the county judge would sign off on this before we proceed on, but apparently he did not. And he said something to the mayor about, well, what do you want me to do with this? I thought it was pretty self-explanatory in the letter.
Well, now, what's the GIS's, what are they uncomfortable about again?
The fact that it looks to them like a land grab, and we're doing it for commercial taxes. You know, it's not residential. I think, you know, if the GIS had been involved with the one that we got taken to court on, they would have been more comfortable with that than what we're doing on this one, because it did take in Shadow Lake and, you know, a lot of residential that was available for future growth. But, you know, when I first presented this to Mr. Von Tuckland, he says, well, your train of thought and what you should be selling this anytime that you go on there is that you're wanting to control the access to your town. And so that's the way I designed that. And then when we get him up here, he says, get ready for a lawsuit, boys, because it's going to come.
Yeah, that'd be
Lawsuit from
the landowners.
Because I'm thinking, so you're saying that town can annex commercial, you only can annex residential?
Actually, I think they can. You know, I don't know why they can't. You know, I have gone through everything that I have on it. I've looked at all the law on it. Of course, you know, Jim is excellent at you know, his advice on things like that. And I'll always you know, lean to his opinion. But you know, maybe if it wasn't from Jenny Lynn to the 4-lane, maybe if it was from 10 to 10 Spur, it'd make a difference. I don't know. You know as well as I do that Fort Smith is going to come south. They're not, but they will probably try to take in the Stevens property and all that up in Jenny Lynn down to Elmwood Cutoff. And in fact, they want to come down to Bear Hollow, which will include a lot of residential. And what we're showing is the highway access and right-of-way all the way down. And then on Highway 10, or 10 Spur, the northern side of it, you know, where Mike McAllister's property is, down to Phil Hicks. And then on the Highway 10 side, the south side, all the way from 71 to Swepco, basically. Just, you know, just like 300 foot on the side, because we were going to take in the whole parcel. But, you know, it's a huge expense, and again, I feel like he's probably right. We will be, have a lawsuit. How far that goes, I don't know. We don't have the same people against us that we had before. It'll be more sporadic. because there was more people just in Shadow Lake alone than all of this combined that we're looking at now.
What about getting serious about looking out on 10, on the south side of 10, from Big Bud to where they're gonna widen out to 71?
I've said it last time we talked, you went out to South Coker, cut down Hendricks all the way across to 71 and back up. You got a whole bunch of land out there that
Well,
ain't nobody living on it.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm for that too. I just think, I mean, if it, I don't know that it works better with pieces. I mean, you know, we've got some enclaves in town that we need to address that.
And I've got all of those,
You know, that's
I've
there.
got all the enclaves,
We pass those up on occasion, not.
legal.
I say pass
I've got
them.
the ordinances written. I need Mike Hamby to file it with the circuit court so that I can get it in front of them for like Valley Loop, Highway 96, Jones property on, the Johnson property on Jones Street, and, you know, some of the little enclaves like that. I have cleaned up some of the ones that they were showing as enclaves, but they weren't. We had annexed them in years ago, and they just, county never picked it up. And when they don't pick it up, it doesn't get to the GIS. And so I've had to go through that and correct all that. But, you know, I'm at the point that I need Mike's help to get the legal work going where they file and it goes in front of the county judge. And of course, then we send out the letters and post it. And those are all done by ordinances. The other one, the one that AC's talking about on the west side, that's going to be an election, and that's going to be a tough one.
Well, I think that we have to just proceed forward. I mean, I like Lance's idea there, you know, and just kind of taking that area and then kind of just going up on the west side of 71 up to 10 Spur. You know, I mean, that's not, to me, a land grab. That's just saying that with the bypass coming in, you know, and stuff, I mean, we're just planning for growth.
The only thing, AC, is, you know, when we're looking at lake land out there, it actually, it doesn't bring anything into the city because you're not getting any revenue from it. It's agriculture, and that can be a legal battle in itself when they can say, if somebody doesn't want to come into the city, they say, well, this land is basically best value is agriculture, and that'll be thrown out. The court will throw that out. Like I said, you're annexing a blank slate that we don't have water rights to. That's James Ford. There's no sewer out there. And so, you know, what have you accomplished at that point? You say, well, it's in the city limits, but what have you got? You know, you're not getting any revenue from it. There's no commercial value to it. If somebody came in and they wanted to do one of these projects out there on Highway 10, you know, that would be immediate that they could come into the city. I mean, they would petition to come into the city, and it would go through the county. The county guys, y'all would pass it, and it'd be a done deal. And so, like I said, we could annex that, but I think our time and money would be spent more on bringing in the north side of 10 Spur, the Highway 10 access, and again, portions of 71 that are commercial value. You know, there's parts of 71 from Walmart to Hendricks Road that's really unbuildable. But then you look at 71 and 10 where the old log cabin used to be, and then you got the machine shop across the street on the other side there. You know, that's good commercial property, and you know, it's value. It brings value to the city. But you start going south there, and it drops off like that. You're not going to build anything down in there until you start coming up the other side.
Unless your tractor supply.
Do I?
Unless your tractor supply.
Yeah.
You could buy a mountain.
That's right. We need another mountain to move. But I'll do whatever you want.
Mike, were you wanting to speak?
No, I just turned off, couldn't be further to figure out how the hell to do it.
Oh, okay, just in case you needed to talk, okay.
Yeah.
Somebody sees some value in that on the south side of Highway 10 because somebody paid some high dollars for some land out there right now.
Yeah, I think the lot or the property just this side of where the restaurant used to be in the whatever that is, must have been sold. Somebody tore the building. Farmers Bank owned it, has it. Did have it. Building's gone. There's a dozer there. I don't know what's going
And
on.
the guy that was looking at the property out here on, East 10, where the church owns, he told me he bought that property and that property out there.
Oh, really? Not the restaurant guy.
No,
Okay.
he's the storage room guy.
He was a what?
Storage building.
Storage building,
Zero revenue for us.
zero.
Just traffic congestion and zero revenue.
Well, you know, it's one of these necessary evils because I don't know of any storage facility in this county that's not full. And so, you know, it's needed, but it does nothing for the city. And I said, yeah, I had him off, and I told him that right to his face. I said, he said, well, I'm gonna build this beautiful thing and all that. And I said, well, that's good, fine. That's
And
good.
he
Do
did.
anything for us.
He did on 71, right? He has the one by
Yeah,
Sharon.
he built one by
That's
Sharon.
the best looking storage I've ever seen.
And,
But it is what it is. All right, so I think, study sessions are good. I think this is certainly not the topic that we need to get together on and talk about it some more and get everybody on the same page, or at least something. I know the Economic Development Committee, again, this is on their list, so, and Sonny's got all this information, so,
I might visit with Sonny again, just trying to work, because I like your idea about saying, just kind of do the commercial spot and going from like Walmart down to Hendrix or something like that.
Sometimes you got a minute, come in and let me show you, what we got.
Sonny's an encyclopedia of knowledge on him. He's got all of it.
And we'll look at it and see, if you, just what we think and go forward with it. Because I've got all the tools, I've got all the legals, I've got this, I've got maps, I've got that. So it's basically take this and move forward with it, or cut it up and do this one and then do that one, or whatever we want to do. So the hard part's over with. It's kind of like the City Lake. I finally got every one of those deeds and legals and all that, and I've got my maps, I've got everything. All I need is Mike to file whatever he has to file with the county to get it in front of the judge so he can release it, and then I bring it over to you guys and y'all accept it basically. And so that's a done deal finally. And that was the hardest thing. Some of those deeds went back to forever. And Charlotte had a tremendous amount of them. And Rixie, like Ron, like Chad, David Rixie did a lot of searching over the county and got some old deeds. We didn't have a copy of it and all that. So we're ready to go on it. All I need to get in front of the judge and get him to release it.
Eric, we have any update on traffic relief?
not since, I don't think I don't have anything new for you, seemed like there was something. Oh, we sent, of course, we've signed the money, over $250,000 to them for engineering. I'm kind of waiting it out a little bit to call and go, okay, where are we? Did you draw anything yet? Because I don't want, it's $250,000, I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I'm kind of like to see something on paper that was the whole intention, so I'll try to get something from
We
somebody.
got a job number and we found it, it's on the tip schedule, still showing 2024, but that's one thing that our highway commissioner is working on, and too, with us giving them money, that should move it up. But it is on paper, I've seen it.
So, yeah, nothing more than that.
Sidewalk.
Knew you was going to ask me that. Absolutely nothing on that, other than Danielle continues, is because
Tim was wanting to talk.
oh, yes, sir. Tim?
Finish with the sidewalk
Okay. Sidewalk is just where it was the last time we met. I actually talked to on the phone a representative again from Church of Latter-day Saints. They said to us that this is legal, is looking at it. They don't think there's an issue with it. They don't think the local church has an issue with it, but they're just getting their attorneys to sign off on it, if you will, or to make any recommendations. That was last week. Taco Bell, I got word from, we've been to the top of the scale, back down to the bottom. I don't mean this bad, but Robert, who serves on our A&P, he's a manager, and he actually made some calls for me to get people to answer to him, and his reply was that it's not, he doesn't feel like it's Taco Bell at all holding us up. That property is leased. Taco Bell leases that property from somebody in Texas or somewhere. So we think we're getting really close to getting that one. They had a couple little, most of the time these businesses are concerned about closing their driveways and, how are they going to be affected. So we're trying to encourage them that that's not going to happen, or there'll be one side closed while the other one, we put planks over it and all that sort of thing, or steel. So those two are really close, I feel like. Baptist Health, on the other hand, I don't get much reaction from any of the corporate office, except we're working on it. We're not against it. That's about it. And now the fourth one is the Moorlock property, is the rent house right next to the automotive O'Reilly. Those folks live in Texas also, and our communication with them has been in the past. They're not interested. I offered money as in not an amount yet until recently. So Mr. Hamby informed me and encouraged me to get a appraisal on the easement itself. The appraisal, to get an appraisal on that is $2,500, which is remarkable, I think. And that's from two different appraisal companies. So I just got with Mr. Handy, and Daniel's not here, so I'll give her kudos in public when she's not here, but not when. Anyway, we drafted a letter and ran it by Mr. Hamby, and I believe you gave your approval on that.
Correct.
Okay, to offer them that amount of money for that particular easement instead of having it appraised and then trying to get it. And we sent that letter off, I think, or late last week, so probably not in their hands yet, but that's on their way to them. The only thing that they gave any indication, at first it's not a money issue, it wasn't about, but I didn't give them the amount. So now I'm offering them $2,500 for it. Other than before that, it was they would consider it if we closed the ditch, tile it, and get it away from the house. So that, I didn't even check on the price of that. That's expensive, to say the least. Plus, it's in the state highway right away, which of course they're working with us. They're providing the grant and all that. It's probably doable, but I have no idea what that would cost. I'm trying the $2,500 buying of the easement first.
What I don't understand is how the cable people can come through town and drill holes and come up and down through property, and you go by the church right now, there's piles of dirt where they poked up and went down the other side and all that. Did they have to get an easement?
Well, it's in the state right, that's in the right of way.
Yeah.
So they have that right. They didn't have to get an easement, but that was kind of.
I guess if we could have kept our sidewalk in the state right away, we wouldn't have to have an easement.
Probably, that's right. So there's that. It's very frustrating, to say the least. I'm already trying to, although it's pain, we have another phase that we're already approved for, as you know, a grant. And it's like we want to jump in the middle of that, but we hadn't even got the first one settled. Can't even pour any concrete because you got to have it all, as you know. You can't pour a section of it without everybody's approval.
And those people are still walking.
And they're still walking on the road. And
Yeah, I came down there the other day, and there's a one-legged man in a wheelchair going down the side of the road, and cars were going around
The one-
like that.
That's what I'm worried about, so if I get killed before we
The folks that I'm
figure out.
actually able to talk to on the phone, I stress to them almost to a degree of, are you kidding me?
Makes you want to stop and take a picture of
We have
everybody you
people-
see on the edge of the road and post it.
Now, we know,
This is what,
you know, there could be a sidewalk and those folks may still walk on the curb, on the shoulder. We don't, but at least there's an option for them. So it's really frustrating. So, and we stay in touch with RDOT on a regular basis to make sure we're not missing a deadline. We did recently get an email from RDOT saying they're going to do a better job of keeping up with this stuff and see if there's issues. So I turned that over to Jeremy, and he's responding to them through that too, because he's the engineer. So
Pretty frustrating.
yeah, the one that was holding out, that I thought would be the one to the very bitter end, but that got settled, and now we've got those other forward. It's just, well, yeah. You know how attorneys are, right? You're welcome.
It'll work out.
It'll work out. We'll get it. One of these days, we'll see a cement truck.
We put a sign over here on the bridge, you know, that Justin's, and I was, can we put a sign there too that says it's Hartsville Creek, you know, too, or is that somebody else?
You have to get highway permission, but there was a sign there.
Well, that's what I thought, there was a sign, I don't know if we put the,
No, we
there's
didn't.
a sign there, replaced it?
No, we did not replace that one. I think it's still there coming from,
Oh, we had Bash Grass,
From the east, yeah, I think
parked, and all the other ones parked.
I could be wrong, but no, we did not take one down. We had,
I think it's the state that does that.
it's a state, I mean, if it's down, I can call my RDOT guy and see what it takes to get it back up, but I'll check. So. Anything else?
Second.
Remember, people in your prayers that are affected in quarantine, and thank you. Good to see you up and about.
Appreciate it.
We still have folks out there in our community, so be prayerful. Thank you. We are dismissed. Get your Wall Street Journal, see how the thing reads. Look at it. Man's in my pocket. Is that real?
Okay. No, I just wanted to check. Yes, thank you.
I like this one.
Well,
It is several.
but I did have a good sweet potato pie out of that gas.
Well, that
Yeah.
Yes.
It was a little clunky
We
at
lost,
first.
we lost somebody there for a little bit. Tim.
Tim at the very beginning, yeah.
Good job, Mr. Mayor.
Hey, sir. Good to see you. I heard you got a visit.
Hold on a second, y'all. I'm gonna push